Hey guys, welcome to part 3 of What If Naruto Became the Black Fox of Kumo. If you enjoy the video, then like, share and subscribe, and also comment your thoughts as it inspires me to make more such videos, and remember to check out my playlist section for other interesting stories. So let's get started. Chapter -11. Well Naruto, I guess we'll be heading out now, said Kakashi as he and the rest of Naruto's siblings stood by the gate to the Namikaze compound. Naruto had relayed the information from the clone he sent to the Hokage a few minutes ago, and the five of them had quickly gathered their gear and prepared to leave for the mission. Naruto nodded in understanding as he stood with his team. He understood that this was a critical part of his plan, but that didn't mean that he wasn't upset that his siblings had to leave for an undetermined amount of time. Be careful and hurry back, he said as he gave each of them a hug and a kiss on the cheek in Anko and Kurena's case. With a few final goodbyes, the five Jounin took to the trees headed for the Hokage Tower to receive their mission. Team 20 decided to get a little bit of training in before they went to the village's main gate to meet up with Bee and Dodai, who were due to arrive later that day. Once they reached the Namikaze personal training grounds, Darui stood in front of them while they stood at the ready to start their training. Well, this seems familiar, said Darui with a smile as he remembered his team's second C-rank mission. Well then let's get started. I think it's about time that you all learned some more advanced jutsu. I'll be teaching each of you a B-ranked jutsu, Karui. For this jutsu you'll need a lot of water, so don't try and use it in a fight, unless you have a substantial water source. It's one of the signature jutsus that all water-style users are known to have in their arsenal, said Darui, before he started going through a lengthy chain of seals before finally ending in the bird sign. Water style, water dragon jutsu. From the pond that was connected to the training ground rose a large dragon made entirely out of water. Its yellow eyes glowed with power before hurtling itself towards one of the many target dummies that was set up in the field. The effects of the jutsu were instantaneous. The dragon clamped down on the target while the rest of its body crashed into the target, completely destroying it. Karui had a hard time keeping herself from drooling as she watched what the jutsu was capable of. With that kind of power in her arsenal, no boy would dare try and smack her ass again. The main weakness of this jutsu is the long chain of seals necessary to perform it, so before you even attempt to use this jutsu in battle, Karui, you'll have to get your speed with hand signs up to par. Now, Yugito, I've already taught you all the fire jutsu I know, so I'll be teaching you a lightning one instead, said Darui as he went through a considerably shorter chain of seals, lightning-style raising lighting jutsu. After he said this, the area around the target dummies began to shake violently before hundreds of large lightning bolts erupted from the ground in random locations and intervals, burning and destroying any target it came in contact with. This jutsu is one of the best ones to have in your arsenal if you ever find yourself facing someone who specializes in close quarters combat. The lightning will make it almost impossible for them to get near you without running the risk of being severely injured or killed by the lightning bolts. A perfect jutsu to have when you're facing someone like a Hyuga. Yugito nodded in agreement. It was definitely a jutsu that could come in handy in a fight against someone like Hinata. Naruto, I didn't plan on teaching you this A-ranked technique until after the exams, but given the rising threats in this village and Orochimaru potentially being here as well, I'm willing to make an exception. The technique I'm going to teach you is a black lightning technique that can only be used with the black lightning, my signature technique, said Darui as he went through a couple of hand signs, while Naruto stood transfixed watching him. Sensei's signature technique, he couldn't mean. His thoughts were interrupted by Sensei's voice, lighting style, Black Panther. Darui's body erupted with black lighting before a panther made of pure black lightning launched from his body, and completely destroyed the target dummy it struck. Naruto stood transfixed at the display. His sensei had told him about his signature jutsu, but never would he have believed that he would be learning it so early on in his training to use the black lightning. When he first started his training, Darui had told him that every user of the Black Lightning had his own signature technique that they created once they had completely mastered the Black Lightning, and would only teach it to their successor when they believed they were worthy enough. After going over the hand sings and the mechanics of each jutsu, they all set about learning their respective jutsu with determination set in their hearts. With Kakashi's group, Sarutobi looked over the five people who stood before him with a small smirk on his face. They were the 5 most powerful Jounin that their village had at its disposal, but they were also the adoptive siblings to one Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto is not ready for his father's name. He may live in his father's home, but he's still too young to handle the responsibility of taking the mantle of Lord Namikaze. He kept telling himself this every day. But now was not the time to dwell on those thoughts. Now he had to send these 5 elites on a mission that could determine the fate of Naruto depending on its outcome. Thank you all for coming so quickly. I have a mission that is of great importance to the village and more importantly to Naruto himself, said the Hokage as he watched the 5 Jounin instantly tense at this piece of information. What is the mission, Hokage-sama, and how does this concern our Ototo? Asked Anko with concern clearly visible on her face. Inwardly though, she was mentally patting herself on the back for putting on such a great performance. I should get an award for this, she thought before returning her attention to the Hokage as he began his explanation. The mission is an S-ranked retrieval mission. The target is Aoi Rokusha. You are to kill him and retrieve the Raijin that he stole from the village. Even though Aoi is only an A-ranked Rouge ninja, the importance of the mission is what makes it an S rank. Naruto's plan cannot succeed without the Raijin. If we want him to return to the village unharmed and with all the knowledge that he is gathering, he must have the Raijin to make Kumo think he is working with them and turning against us, said Sarutobi as he handed Kakashi the mission scroll. That scroll contains the mission parameters in greater detail, as well as whatever info we have on Aoi. You leave immediately. This mission must be completed before the finals of the Shoyunin exams begin. With a chorus of yes, sir, the 5 Jounin vanished in a swirl of leaves. With Team 20-1 hour later. Our 3 favorite genin were currently practicing with the jutsu their sensei had demonstrated for each of them. Karui was standing in the center of the pond in the training ground soaking wet. She had been trying to get the jutsu down ever since her sensei showed it to her. So far she had managed to form a dragon, but it was only a few feet long, nothing near the monstrous size of the one her sensei had shown them. Cursing under her breath, she began going through the long chain of seals again, only to be met with another dragon barely 5 feet long. Yugito was bent over, her breathing labored as she took a short break to observe her progress with her new technique. All around her were small holes that were the result of her many attempts at the rising lightning jutsu. While she managed to make the lightning break the surface, she hadn't managed to raise it any higher than about 3 feet, with barely enough electrical energy in them to give someone a good jolt as a wake-up call. Wiping her forehead, Yugito stood back up before going through the hand signs again with a cry of lightning style. Rising lightning jutsu, multiple lightning bolts about 2.5 feet tall broke through the surface of the training ground. When the jutsu died down, she let out a frustrated sigh before beginning the chain of seals again, mentally thanking her large chakra capacity. Naruto, if it was possible, was even more frustrated than both his teammates combined. While he had managed to surround his body with black lightning, it was only for a few seconds before the lightning faded back to its natural bluish hue. While anyone else would consider this an amazing achievement considering the difficulty of the technique, to Naruto, it was almost insulting. The fact that his sensei had deemed him worthy of learning his signature jutsu before he was even a shoyunin was overwhelming to the blonde. That alone was more than enough motivation for him, but when you factored in the potential threat of Orochimaru, only someone with a death wish would try and interfere with the blonde's training. Let's take a break for a while, team, we need to go. Might be and Dodai at the gates, said Darui, as his team begrudgingly stopped practicing their newest techniques and walked over to him. Come on, B and Dodai are probably already waiting for us, he said as his team nodded and began heading back towards the village, each of them muttering curses about not being able to get their jutsu down faster. Darui couldn't help but smirk at his team despite the differences between the 3 of them. They were all ninjutsu specialists by trade, and not being able to get a jutsu down was driving them nuts. Walking through the village, Team 20 couldn't shake the feeling they were being watched. They knew it wasn't Konoha Anbu, and they knew they weren't being followed, but the uneasy feeling of someone watching them just wouldn't go away. With Hinata same time. Hinata stood on the roof of the main house in her clan's compound with her Bakugan activated and searching the village for her target. She had been trying to find him ever since her discussion with her father, and so far she hadn't been able to find any trace of him. At first she had thought that he might have left the village to return to Kumo and train for the finals, until her father told her that participants in the finals of the exams were not allowed to leave the village. When she found that out, she redoubled her efforts in trying to find the elusive blonde. While unintentional, the constant searching she did using her Bakugan had helped to increase her range of vision with her Dojutsu. Today though, she had a feeling things would be different, that something was going to happen that would forever change life as her village knew it. Finally, she thought as a smirk crossed her lips, she had found her target. He was walking through the village square towards the gates with his team, and while she would prefer him alone, she would take whatever opportunity she could get. Jumping from the roof of her clan compound, she made her way towards Team 20 with every intention of walking away with a new boyfriend. With Team 20, the feeling of someone watching them seemed to only increase as they approached the gates. They were each preparing for a fight when all of a sudden, Yugito's body went rigid and her hold on her boyfriend's arm tightened. Darui and Karui were worried not many things could cause Yugito to tense like this, especially with Naruto at her side. But when she did it usually meant something bad was going to happen. Naruto, while worried, was also on high alert. He knew Yugito's body language almost as well as his own. Whenever her entire body tensed it usually meant she sensed a powerful and threatening chakra coming towards them, but when her grip turned into a vice, it only meant one thing. Taking a sniff to confirm his suspicions, he smelt it, pheromones. Like the ones he had smelt coming off of Kiba in the prelims, these pheromones held no love, only lust. One drastic difference between these pheromones and the ones from the prelims was the fact that they were from a female, and a powerful one at that. Tightening his own hold on his girlfriend, Naruto tensed his muscles ready for anything, his sensei and a teammate following his actions. They didn't have to wait long as at that moment, Hinata Hyuga dropped down in front of them with a smirk on her face. "Hello, Naruto-kun," she said in a seductive voice that had Yugito growling dangerously at the arrogant heiress. Hinata, seemingly ignorant of the danger she was putting herself in, walked or more like strutted closer to our favorite blonde shinobi. "I'm curious, Naruto-kun, why would someone like you, who is heir to two of the most powerful clans in history, hang around no-name, plainless peasants like them?" asked Hinata as she wrapped her arms around Naruto's right arm and pressed it in between her ample B cups. Karui and Darui tensed at this, not the intended insult itself, but they knew it would bring about. Glancing over at Yugito, they moved to interfere before got out of hand, only to be stopped by a look from Naruto that showed he had the situation under control. Yugito was getting angrier by the second. This useless hussy had the nerve to call her boyfriend Naruto-kun, and now she wrapping herself around him like the slut she is. "I swear if this bitch doesn't get away from my Naruto-kun, I'm going to rip her fucking chest off," thought Yugito as she fought to stay, and her tenant wasn't exactly helping. "That wench, if she thinks she can touch our mates like that, then she has another thing coming. Yugito, use my chakra and turn this slut into charcoal. Mata, as much as I want to, I can't just go demon on her because..." Yugito's thoughts were cut off when she heard the Hyuga whore talking to her boyfriend again. "I can understand you hanging around them out of pity, but why would you soil and degrade your name and date one of them? What does she have to offer you and your clan? She doesn't come from a prominent and influential clan, and her skills as a kunoichi are pathetic. I, on the other hand, am the heiress of the most prominent clan in Konoha. I was the top kunoichi in my graduating class, and not to mention, I'm the most appealing girl in the village, while she's nothing but a flat-chested slut." Time seemed to slow down as Hinata continued talking. It stopped entirely with that last insult. Darui and Karui were scared out of their minds. First, this arrogant heiress tries to wrap herself around Naruto with Yugito standing not a foot away, and now she just said the one thing that could set off the maelstrom that was Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Yugito's attempts at trying to stay calm shattered into a million pieces after Hinata finished her rant. "That's it. This bitch is going down, and she's going down hard. Mata, give me everything you can. We're turning this whore into ash," thought Yugito as even her inner voice took on a demonic edge. "You got it, kitten, kill that sorry excuse for a mate stealer." was her demonic tenant's reply before her system was flooded with Matatabi's demonic chakra. Naruto was fighting the urge to cut Hinata into tiny little pieces. His anger had risen with every insult she directed at his girlfriend. But that last one was the straw that broke the camel's back. He was about to draw his blade when he felt the familiar demonic chakra of Matatabi start to leak out of Yugito. Abandoning all thoughts of killing the arrogant Hyliga heiress, Naruto forcibly removed his arm from her grasp and wrapped both of his arms around Yugito before using Shunshin to get them both out of the area so he could focus on calming her down. With Bee and Dodai, the two elite Kumo Jounin had been waiting at the main gate for Team 20 to meet them to start their training. They were just about to start roaming the village in search for them when they noticed a familiar mop of blonde hair approaching them. Smiling at the sight of their favorite genin team, the two started towards them to meet them halfway. When they got within earshot of Team 20, they noticed that they seemed distracted, like they were trying to find something or someone. They soon realized the cause of their problem when a young girl about their age dropped down in front of Team 20. Even though they couldn't see her face, they knew that the young girl was a Hyliga just by the way she held herself. She had the patented superior Hyliga air around her, and she spoke like she was superior to everything and everyone around her. They watched and listened as the Hyliga girl greeted Naruto, but completely ignored the rest of Team 20's presence. When she wrapped herself around Naruto's arm, they were worried that Yugito would do something drastic in blind rage that another girl had the nerve to touch her boyfriend like that way. They tensed when she started in on how she was superior to Yugito. They were worried that Naruto might end up being the one to do something instead of Yugito, and it would take everything they had, plus Darui, just to hold back the blonde. When she finished her rant, both men were already moving to interfere with the situation, knowing full well what Naruto would do to anyone who said that about Yugito. Before they could reach them, however, a spike in demonic chakra was the only warning they had before the two blondes of Team 20 vanished in a Shunshin. With the rest of Team 20, Darui and Karui breathed sighs of relief before turning their attention to the Hyliga heiress who had been unceremoniously dropped on her ass when Naruto pulled his arm from her grip. Glaring at the wide-eyed girl, Darui spoke with his voice laced with killing intent. Let this serve as your one and only warning. If you so much as come near my student like that again, I will personally end you. Though, there won't be much of you left after Yugito gets done with you in the finals. Hinata stood up and wiped the dirt off of her before turning to face the pissed Kumo Jounin. It doesn't matter what you say, Naruto-kun and I are fated to be together. We are both the heirs of our clans, and as such we are the only ones worthy of the other. His heritage as an Uzumaki and Namikaze is only matched by mine as a Hyliga, said Hinata as she turned and started making her way back to her clan compound. She was stopped though by a deep voice that for some reason sent a terrified shiver down her spine. I would heed Darui's words if I were you. Girl heritage means nothing when it comes to love. Naruto and Yugito love each other with everything they are, and they don't take kindly to someone trying to separate them. They are the only thing that calm the other when one of them is truly pissed off, but when both them are pissed, nothing will spare you their wrath, said B as he and Dodai walked up to stand next to Darui and Karui. Hinata just scoffed and starting on her way back to her clan compound with only one thing on her mind, no matter what, Naruto-kun will be mine. The group of Kumo ninjas sighed before Darui started leading them back to the Namikaze compound to wait for their favorite blondes to return, though that might not be for a while. Shoyunin Exam Stadium a month later. Team 20 stood facing the packed and restless audience that had shown up to watch the finals of the Shoyunin exams. With them were the rest of the genin that managed to pass the prelims. Gaara and Temurai hadn't changed at all over the month-long break. Gaara still wore his emotionless mask while Temurai had a confident smirk on her face. Shino was being the typical Aburame, calm, cool and collected even the face of such an important task about to take place. Like his fellow Konoha genin, Shikamaru was being the typical lazy Nara, somehow managing to doze off while standing and take a quick nap. Neji and Hinata were also being the typical stereotype that their clan was known for, though for different reasons. Neji was glaring at Hinata out of the corner of his eyes. It seemed he still held a grudge against her and the main house. Hinata was openly glaring at Yugito. Ever since their little meeting in the village, Hinata had made no other attempts at Naruto, but there was something in her eyes that told them that she had something planned. Sasuke was also glaring at a member of Team 20, though his attention was held by the lone shinobi of the team. It seemed Sasuke had found out how the seal that blocked his chakra got onto him, and he wasn't too happy about it. Everyone's attention was drawn to the cage box as Hiruzen Sarutobi made his appearance along with two enemy guards. Not long after the Hokage appeared, the Kasage made his own entrance along with his own guard. However, it was the last one that appeared that held everyone's attention. Soon after the Kasage took his seat and decided to make his own appearance along with Bee and Dodai as his guards. Cage box. Welcome Lord Kasage, Lord Raikage, I hope your journeys here were pleasant, said Sarutobi as the other two Kage nodded in acknowledgement. Indeed it was Lord Hokage, I am very excited to see how these finals will play out, said the masked Kasage. You're getting soft, old man, by the end of these exams you will be dead, and I will be one step closer to obtaining the Sharingan, thought Orochimaru from behind his veil. Lord Kasage is right, these exams should prove to be very interesting indeed, said it as he looked down at the arena to see all of Team 20 looking at him with determination in their eyes. Well, you brats managed to keep your promise about all of you being in the finals, now make me and everyone in Kumo proud by becoming Shonen, thought the Raikage before he turned to see the Kasage about to speak. I couldn't help but notice Lord Hokage that these exams seem to have quite a selection of competitors. The heir to the Nara clan, the heir to the Ibarame clan, the heiress of the Hyuga clan, and the most powerful branch Hyuga in generations, and of course the last Uchiha, an interesting combination indeed. A frown slightly, while he understood that his ninja weren't commonly known like the clans of Konoha, it still pissed him off when someone overlooked them because they don't have a prominent clan name. While I agree that there are many prominent clans represented here today, I also believe in the old saying a diamond in the rough. And I believe my village is being represented by 3 of them, said O with a smirk at Team 20. Sarutobi had to suppress a smirk at hearing this. You young fool, if only you had the experience to see underneath the underneath. Think what you want right now, but in a few months' times you will learn the truth, he thought before standing to address the crowd that had gathered and begin the exams. Welcome everyone to the finals of the Shonen selection exams. Before we begin, I would like to congratulate these young ninja on making it this far in the exams. Now without further ado, let the tournament begin. Once the Hokage finished, the stadium erupted into cheers and applause. With Naruto's siblings. So Naruto's match is first, said Kurena as she turned to face everyone else. Getting nods of agreement, she turned back to the arena where the proctor, Genma Shiranui, was speaking to the genin. I wonder how he'll do against Neji. What do you think, Guy? Guy had an unusually serious expression on his normally smiling face. Over the month-long break, Guy hadn't had any contact with his team because of the mission they were on and because of the plans they had to come up with for leaving the village. Next to Guy, his mini-clone Lee also had a serious expression on his face. He had been brought in on the plan because neither Guy nor Naruto could stand to leave without him. Naruto will have a tough fight ahead of him. He may be more powerful than Neji overall, but Neji is called a genius of the Gyukin for a reason. I wouldn't put it past him to have something up his sleeve that not even his own clan knows of, said Guy as he watched the genin leave the field, leaving Naruto and Neji to fight the first round. Everyone nodded in agreement with Guy's analysis of the situation. They knew Naruto would definitely win, but the path to that victory would be a dangerous one. Well, little brother, now's your chance to show everyone exactly what you're mad of, said Kakashi as he watched Genma getting ready to start the match. In the arena. Alright. The two of you ready? Asked Genma, getting a nod from both boys. Okay then, the first match, Naruto Namikaze vs Neji Hyuga, begin. Shouted Genma before jumping out of the way. Neither of them moved, each staring the other down for what seemed like hours. The silence was finally broken by Neji, who spoke with his usual superior Hyuga tone, though it was laced with venom and hatred. Finally my chance to avenge my father has come. Once I defeat you, the only one left to deal with will be my pathetic excuse of a cousin. Prepare yourself, only one of us will walk away from this match alive, and it won't be you." With that, Neji activated his Byakugan and charged Naruto with only one thought: to avenge his father's death by killing Naruto. Said blonde immediately went on the defensive when he realized that Neji wasn't kidding. If the accuracy of his strikes and the places he was targeting were any indication, he really was trying to kill him. Naruto kept swerving in and out of Neji's strikes and redirecting those that he couldn't avoid. Deflecting another Gyuken strike to his chest, he saw an opening in Neji's guard and took it. Grabbing onto his opponent's wrist, Naruto pulled him in closer and delivered a massive knee to his stomach. Releasing his hold on him, Naruto jumped back to get some space between them before going through some hand signs. "Wind style, Gale Palm Jutsu," said Naruto before thrusting his right palm out towards Neji, sending a violent gust of wind at the gasping Hyuga. Forcing himself to move despite the pain in his stomach, Neji barely managed to avoid getting struck by the attack. Righting himself, Neji slipped into the opening stance of the Gyuken and waited to see what Naruto's next move would be. It seems he's more skilled than even I gave him credit for, but I have figured out most of his skills. He has an affinity for lighting and wind-style jutsu, and large chakra reserves, since he doesn't even seem the least bit drained from using so much in that last attack of his. I have to keep him from drawing his ninjato. If the technique he used in the prelims is any indication, he can easily defeat me if he were to use it. But I have the advantage in taijutsu. If I can manage to get him within my field of divination, this match will be over, thought Neji with a smirk before charging at Naruto once more. That took a while. He must have been analyzing my attack style. Too bad for him, he hasn't even seen half of my skills, thought Naruto as he started dodging the lethal strikes of the Gyuken once again. Oh well, enough playing defense, time for some fun. Jumping out of Neji's range, Naruto made a familiar cross-hand sign before three clones appeared beside him. Smirking as one, the four Narutos vanished in an impressive burst of speed, only to reappear surrounding Neji on four sides. Going through hand signs once more, the four blondes finished in unison before launching their attacks at the Hyuga prodigy. Lightning style, Black Lightning SDR. Ike arms arcing with black lightning. Naruto and his clones raised their arms and four bolts of the lethal lightning shot at Neji, who seemed frozen in fear of the attack, no doubt remembering its effects from the prelims. Shaking off his temporary shock, Neji was forced to reveal one of the techniques he had learned over the month. Expelling chakra from every point on his body, Neji began rotating in place, forming a dome of chakra around him. Rotation, came the voice of Neji as the crowd watched in awe as the four bolts of lightning collided with his defense, causing a massive explosion to rock the arena. Everyone held their breath as they waited for the smoke to clear, only for it to reveal Naruto and Neji standing across from one another, unmoving. Despite being a branch Hyuga, you're able to perform the so-called ultimate defense of the main family. I must admit, I'm mildly impressed. You must have worked hard to achieve that technique. But you still won't win this match, said Naruto as he gazed into the glaring eyes of Neji's Byakugan. Said Hyuga's scowl depended when he heard this, causing the veins around his eyes to bulge more. It doesn't matter what you say, fate has already decided the outcome of this match, and it shall end with your death. Screamed an enraged Neji before he slipped into a strange stance, crouched slightly with one arm out in front of him with the other raised behind him. You are in the range of my divination. With Hiashi and the Hyuga elders. It can't be. How can a branch member have possibly learned those techniques? Asked a random Hyuga elder as the others started whispering in agreement. While all of this was going on around him, Hiashi was staring at his nephew with a frown on his face. Is this what you truly seek, Neji? Is avenging your father all that matters to you? Thought Hiashi as he glanced at the competitor's box, more precisely, a certain Uchiha. It would seem revenge has become a common trait in this year's Genin. With Naruto's siblings. Naruto is in trouble if this attack hits, said Guy as he watched the fight with a growing frown on his face. How could I have missed Neji's thirst for revenge so easily? The signs were all there and yet, I never noticed. It seems Kakashi wasn't the only one who had an avenger on their squad. What do you mean, Guy? What is that attack? Asked Anko as she glanced at her little brother, worry evident in her eyes before turning back to Guy as he began to explain. The stance Neji took is the opening stance for one of the Hyuga clan's most feared techniques, the 8 trigrams 64 palms. The technique attacks the 64 most vital chakra points on the body and closes them off. If Neji lands this attack, then this match will be turned into a pure taijutsu brawl, putting Naruto at a major disadvantage. This is, if he can even stand after the attack, said Guy in a somber tone. Everyone else turned shocked and slightly fearful eyes back to their favorite blonde shinobi. Come on Naruto, I know you can pull this off, thought Darui, as he watched his successor prepare for the attack. In the arena, Naruto didn't have time to react before Neji was on him and launching a barrage of strikes at his body. With a cry of 2 palm he felt 2 of his chakra points being closed off. 4 palms, said Neji as he continued his attack, 8 palms, 16 palms, 32 palms. Neji's hands were a blur as he began the last part of his attack. Thrusting his palm into Naruto's chest, Neji smirked before calling out the end of his attack, 64 palms. Naruto was launched back into the wall, causing a large cloud of dust to erupt from the point of impact, obscuring his body from view. Chapter 12. Everybody held their breath as they watched the smoke from the impact slowly dissipate. Naruto's siblings were worried. No matter how strong he was, that attack would take a lot out of him. Come on Naruto, please be alright, was the collective thought of the Jounin in Naruto's corner. Karui was concerned. She knew that her teammate could take hit, but that last attack was pushing it. Glancing over at her female teammate, she was surprised to see the girl casually leaning against the rail while staring intently at the part of the wall Naruto was launched into. Raising an eyebrow, she turned to look at where their teammate had been launched and had to stifle a gasp at what she saw. Cage box. No, Naruto, screamed Sarutobi in his head as he watched the limp form of the person he thought of as a grandson slowly appear as the smoke dissipated. Turning slightly so he could judge the Hokage's reaction to this turn of events, he was horrified when he saw a smirk on the face of the Hokage and his guards. They don't even care if he's alive. Those bastards will pay for this. A watched as the smoke cleared slowly, revealing the form of his most promising genin. Smirking at what he knew was coming next, he had one last thought before turning his full attention back to the fight. The looks on everybody's faces are going to be so priceless. In the arena same time, Neji was smirking at the results his attack had caused. If he somehow survived that attack, then he'll be a sitting duck for me to finish. As the smoke finally cleared, the sight that greeted Neji only served to increase his smirk. There in the center of a small crater in the wall, half of his body embedded into it, was a bruised and bleeding Naruto. His arms were covered in tiny red spots, indicating where Neji's strikes had closed off his chakra points. Blood dripped from the corners of his mouth onto his chest. His black sleeveless shirt looked eerily similar to the one that he was wearing when Bee and Darui found him all those years ago. His torso was covered in numerous dots like the ones that littered his arms, and in the center of his abdomen, visible for all to see, was the familiar seal that held Kurama inside of him. Turning to Neji, Genma was about to call the match when a noise brought everybody's attention back to the blonde that was supposedly unconscious. Slowly lifting his head, Naruto smirked at Neji's shocked face before pulling himself out of the wall and collapsing to one knee. Breathing deeply, Naruto spit out the blood in his mouth before ripping what was left of his shirt off, drawing blushes from many of the female population present. Righting himself, though wobbly, Naruto brought his left hand up into a half-rem sign to help focus his chakra. This movement seemed to snap Neji out of his shock stupor as his eyes took on the superior Hyuga look again. It's useless, I have blocked your main chakra points, your chakra is useless to you, said Neji with a confident smirk. Said smirk was replaced with a frown when Naruto grew one of his infamous fox smirks as wind started to whirl around him. Everyone was forced to cover their face as the wind around Naruto started to get faster and faster. The civilians watched in awe, while the shinobi watched in shock as red chakra slowly spread over the young blonde's body. The red spots all over his body started fading, as his chakra points were reopened by the force of the chakra moving through his system. Neji had his Byakugan activated and watched in shock as Naruto's chakra points were reopened by the fiery red chakra that spread throughout his body from the seal on his stomach. That's impossible. Where is this chakra coming from? Thought Neji as a fox head formed from the red chakra appeared over the boy's body. Why? What is he? Thought Neji in fear as he saw all of the wounds and damage his attack had caused heal almost instantly as the amount of the red chakra in the blonde system kept rising. Naruto's features started to turn feral as his cloak formed with one chakra tail swinging behind him. His nails lengthened into claws while his canines elongated into fangs. His whisker marks deepened and his hair became even spikier than it normally was. Opening his eyes drew gasps of shock recognition, but mostly fear from the citizens and shinobi of Konoha. They knew those eyes all too well. They were the eyes that haunted the nightmares of everyone who had seen the Kyuubi's attack 13 years ago. The eyes combined with the familiar feeling of death and bloodlust that filled the air was enough to force many of the civilians to faint from fear, while the shinobi fought to remain still in their seats. With the Hokage. There's no mistaking it. This is the chakra of the nine-tailed fox. But when did Naruto learn to harness its power? Thought Sarutobi in shock as he watched Naruto do what should be impossible, control the chakra of the most powerful Bajoa in existence. In the arena. Don't even think of calling this match Proctor, it's just beginning, said Naruto with a demonic edge to his voice. Genma had to fight the urge to run at the sight of the boy, but hearing him speak in that voice was too much. Giving a quick nod in acknowledgement, Genma shunshined to the top of the stadium wall, well out of reach of the two genin. Now then, you had your shot, now it's my turn. With that, Naruto vanished from sight, only to reappear with his foot buried in Neji's abdomen. Said prodigy was sent rocketing backward at speeds that impressed even Guy, but before he could do anything to recover was sent rocketing towards the sky with a solid kick to the chin from the Kyuubi feet blonde. Naruto again vanished from sight and reappeared a little above Neji before bringing his leg up and sending Neji plummeting to the unforgiving earth with a massive axe kick to the stomach. The stadium shook with the force of Neji hitting the ground. Many of the shinobi thought the match was over and that Neji was most likely dead with the amount of force he hit with. Naruto landed a ways away from the small crater that had formed upon Neji's impact. Noticing movement out of the corner of his eye, Naruto turned a cold glare on Genma, who froze in fear at the look he was getting. Naruto shook his head to stop the man from interfering and to let the match go on. Genma's worry soon turned into shock when he saw Neji standing in the middle of the crater panting. No one could believe what they were seeing. Neji had somehow survived an attack that would have killed any other man on impact. Silence overcame the stadium, with the only sound being that of Neji's panting. The silence seemed to last an eternity, until it was broken by the demonic voice of one Naruto Namikaze. Impressive use of the rotation, Neji, said Naruto as realization took place of shock on the face of every ninja in attendance. With Naruto's siblings. I'll admit one thing about that Hyuga brat, he's clever, that's for sure, said Darui as he watched his only male student stare down the prodigy of the Hyuga clan. Yeah, the kid sure earned his title as a genius with that move, said Anko as she smirked at the form of her little brother. Damn, with a body like that I bet he's a lady killer back in Kumo, am I right? She said with a wiggle of her eyebrows. Chuckling softly under his breath, Darui met Anko's eye before smirking slightly, causing an almost unnoticeable blush to spread across her face. You have no idea, he's got his own club of fangirls that follows him around. In the arena. I think it's about time we end this little match of ours, don't you? Said Naruto as he held out his right hand and started to concentrate his regular chakra into it. This one's for you, Dad, thought Naruto as he started to spin his chakra in random directions, while compressing it into a small sphere. Every Konoha ninja present couldn't believe what they were seeing with the exception of Naruto's siblings. In Naruto's hand was the ultimate jutsu of shape manipulation, one of the prized techniques of the fourth Hokage himself, the Rasengan. Naruto launched forward with the deadly jutsu in hand, with the full intention of blowing Neji into the opposite wall. Seeing the oncoming attack that would surely kill him where he stood, Neji pulled on every last bit of chakra he had in him and began rotating again. Time seemed to slow as the two rotating techniques drew closer, one defensive the other offensive. When the two finally met, they seemed to be evenly matched at first, until the wild rotation of the Rasengan began to take over the chakra dome. Neji's screams of pain could be heard all throughout the village as his own chakra began to spin wildly around him, cutting into him in random locations. This continued for a few seconds before the technique began to die down. The sight that greeted them had most of the civilians vomiting up their last meal while the ninja present grimaced. Lying in a pool of its own blood was the mangled body of Neji Hyuga. Cuts littered his body, ranging from small scratches to large gashes. His right arm was severed completely from his body. Two large gashes forming an X on his chest were spilling his blood like a river, making his complexion pale drastically as time went on. Genma had already called for medics when the two attacks met and had Shunshinad next to Neji's body to check for a pulse. Finding none, the special Jounin sighed before he stood up to address the crowd. Winner by death, Naruto Namikaze's silence reigned after Genma's announcement, only to be broken by the sound of clapping coming from Naruto's siblings and teammates. Letting his chakra cloak recede, Naruto made his way up to the competitor's box, eager to get his reward his girlfriend promised him for winning his match. Cage box. Sarutobi sat transfixed at the sight before him. If he thought watching Naruto kill in the prelims shook him, that was nothing compared to what he was feeling now. There were drastic differences between Naruto's kill in the prelims and his kill just now. First was that in the preliminaries the kill had been clean and efficient. There was no blood then and young Sai had died instantly. Now though, Naruto had killed his opponent slowly and painfully, using Neji's own chakra to cut into his body repeatedly and cause unimaginable amounts of pain while simultaneously prolonging the poor Hyuga's agony. The second thing was that Sai had been an unknown from the academy, no family to speak of and no one close enough to the boy to consider a friend. Neji, while albeit the branch house was from the Hyuga clan, the most powerful clan in Konoha at the moment. While they couldn't do anything to attack the boy legally, he knew that when Naruto returned to the village, he would be resented by the branch members. With Naruto's siblings. Well, that's one target down, 2 to go, said Kakashi as the other Jounin nodded in agreement. It looks like your plan is going smoothly, little brother. Let's just hope your clones can complete their part of the plan in time. True, but don't forget that other two will not be so easy to remove. The Uchiha is the last of his clan that is loyal to the village, and most of the Konoha citizens would rather the village be destroyed than give up their almighty Sharingan, said Darui with sarcasm clear in his voice. Guy and Lee couldn't help but chuckle at that comment, being the only two people in the village that knew how to negate the ocular attacks of the Sharingan allowed them to see all of the flaws in the so-called legendary Dojutsu. Also, I have a feeling that the Hyuga heiress will be a pain in our side for a long time to come, said the laid-back Jounin as he watched Genma call down the Uchiha and the Ibarame for the second match. I still don't like this part of the plan. There are too many things that could go wrong, not to mention the fact that if this part succeeds then Naruto and Yugito will be made major targets in the eyes of the Konoha shinobi, said a worried Kurena as she glanced over at the competitor's box and saw her little brother talking quietly with his teammates. I feel the same, Kurena, but we have to believe in Naruto. Don't forget what he told us after we got back from our mission, said Anko as she wrapped her arm around her best friend and tried to comfort her. I know, Anko, but I still can't help but worry, said Kurena as she thought back to the night a few days ago when Naruto explained how the final phase of his plan was going to happen. Flashback 3 days ago. How'd things go on the mission? Asked Naruto as he sat across from his siblings with his teammates on either side of him. Kakashi and the others had just returned from their mission to track down and eliminate Aoi Rokusha and to return the Raijin to Naruto. Judging by their appearances, things had gone relatively smoothly. Kakashi looked a little disheveled with a few nicks and scratches along his arms. Guy's spandex suit was burnt in a couple of places, showing where Aoi had come close to getting in a couple of strikes. Kurena and Anko were relatively unharmed with only minor scratches here and there. Hayate on the other hand was covered in larger scratches, and he had some minor burns on his hands and arms, most likely from where he crossed blades with Aoi. Fairly well, It took us a while to track Aoi down, and after we managed to find him, he took off the second he got word of Konoha ninja in the area. We followed him for a few more days before we finally caught up to him at the border of grass country and rain country. He put up a good fight considering he was outnumbered 5-1, but Hayate managed to disarm him, literally, and finished him off with a stab to the heart, said Kurena, causing Hayate to blush a little at the praise. Naruto raised an eyebrow at this, before turning to wink at his teammates with a smirk on his face. If those two get together, I might be an uncle before I turn 15. So I take it you retrieved the Raijin? Naturally, said Kakashi before he unclipped one of the slots on his vest and pulled out a small sealing scroll, and tossing it to Naruto. Unrolling the scroll, Naruto quickly released storage seal, revealing the one and only Raijin. Slowly lifting the metal handle as if it were made of fragile glass, Naruto could only stare at one of the weapons that had once defended one of his clans. Everyone around him couldn't help the small smiles that spread across their lips. To see someone they each cared deeply for finally have a physical connection to his lost family was heartwarming, to say the least. Snapping out of his stupor, Naruto resealed the Raijin and put the scroll in his weapons pouch before turning his attention back to his siblings, teammates and sensei. Alright, phase 3 of the plan is officially complete, said Naruto as everyone present nodded. It's time we began preparations for the fourth and final phase. A fourth phase? You only told us about the first 3 phases, said a confused guy as his fellow Jounin all nodded in agreement, looks of confusion on their faces as well. At this, Naruto shared a concerned glance with his sensei and teammates before turning to face his siblings, whose looks of confusion were now mixed with concern. They're not going to like this one little bit, thought Naruto, as he braced himself for siblings' reaction to this part of his plan. Well, the fourth phase is something that will deal some major damage to Konoha as well as by us, and Kumo some time to prepare for what will come later. On their way here, Bee and Dodai found something disturbing that has confirmed some of our suspicions, said Naruto as he gestured to Dodai and Bee to take over. As Naruto said, Bee and I found something very unsettling. The body of the Kasuke and his guards were lying in a ditch about 10 miles out from Konoha's western gate, said Dodai, shocking Naruto's siblings that someone had managed to kill the Kasuke. However, what is more concerning is that his face was stolen from him. This confirmed our suspicions that Orochimaru is planning an invasion of Konoha along with Suna. This got some startled gasps from the former Konoha Jounin. They knew that Orochimaru was in Konoha for a reason, but they never suspected that he would try and invade Konoha during the Shoyunin exams. What could Orochimaru possibly want now of all times? Asked Kurena as she had a sinking feeling that the next phase of Naruto's plan involved this invasion. What he has always wanted, the Sharingan, said Naruto, bringing looks of understanding to his siblings. If there was anything that a person like Orochimaru would do anything to have, it would be the Sharingan. If Phase 4 is completely successful, then it will deal a crippling blow to Konoha, while also setting Orochimaru's plans back a while. Phase 4 will revolve around what our team was originally created for: assault and assassination. During the finals, Karui, Yugito-chan and I will do everything we can to ensure that Sasuke Uchiha, Hinata Hyuga, and Neji Hyuga don't survive the event. Naruto's siblings raised an eyebrow at this. They could understand Sasuke and Hinata, but Neji was a surprise. Sensing his siblings' confusion, Naruto continued in his explanation. With these 3 out of the picture, it would remove a huge threat to us and Kumo. With the last pure-blooded Sharingan wielder in Konoha dead, the Uchiha clan can never be revived in this hellhole of a village that alone will bring the morale of Konoha's ninja down dramatically. However, if we kill the so-called prodigy of the Hyuga clan and the Hyuga heiress, it would be years before Konoha would be back to full strength both militarily and mentally. While that's true, Naruto, it also has a dangerous side effect. It would place you, Yugito and Karui at the top of Konoha's most hated enemies, probably rivaling Orochimaru in that essence, said Kakashi, while the rest of the former Konoha Jounin nodded in agreement. I've thought of that, Kakashi, but it will take time for Konoha to recover from the invasion that will happen, and the loss of 3 such promising genin. With the time it would take a village to recover from that kind of loss, it will be years before they can even think of exacting their revenge, said Naruto as Kakashi nodded in understanding. knowing from first-hand experience the time it takes to recover from such a blow. Wait, Naruto, how do you know Konoha will even survive this invasion? If the village doesn't survive the invasion, then we don't even have to worry about someone coming after the three of you, asked Kurena as she couldn't understand why her little brother was talking about future plans concerning Konoha when there might not even be a Konoha after the invasion. Naruto smirked at this, a very dark smirk that could make even Kurama himself shiver in fear and anticipation at the mere sight of it. Because sis, we're going to make sure Konoha survives the invasion. Flashback end. I still can't believe that Naruto wants to make sure that Konoha survives the invasion, said Kurena as she watched as Sasuke used his fireball jutsu to incinerate a swarm of Shino's bugs. Neither can I, but then again, since when have we been able to understand what goes on in Naruto's head? Asked Darui, with a smirk, getting chuckles from the shinobi present and giggles from the kunoichi. True, we may not know what goes on inside his head, and it's probably a good thing we don't, but he's never lead us wrong, has he? Said Guy as the other Jounin all nodded in agreement. Looks like Sasuke won his match, he said, returning everyone's attention to the match that had just finished. With Naruto, Yugito and Karui. Looks like the emo won, said Yugito from her place sitting on the railing. Her teammates nodded in agreement as they watched Sasuke walk back to the competitor's box, while medics took a burned Shino away to be treated. All according to plan. Alright Karui, you're up. Remember, we need to cause as much panic as possible to keep the Konoha shinobi on guard so they're ready for the invasion, said Naruto as Karui nodded in agreement, before jumping over the rail when Genma called for her and Gaara to come down for their match. After Karui jumped down for her match, Yugito turned a concerned look towards her boyfriend. Do you think she'll be alright? She asked with worry lacing her voice. Karui may have been a strong and fierce kunoichi, but she was just that, a regular kunoichi. There was no way she could stand up to a Jinchuriki, even if it was the Jinchuriki of the weakest Bajoa. She'll be fine, Yugito-chan. Karui's a stubborn one. She won't go down easily, said Naruto with a smirk as he watched his teammate stare down the red-haired Jinchuriki. Noticing that his girlfriend was still looking at their teammate with worry and concern, he stepped up next to her and wrapped his right arm around her waist, pulling her to him. If it looks like things are getting out of hand and she might be killed, we'll personally step in and stop it, okay? He said, causing Yugito to give him a small smile and nodded in agreement before resting her head on his shoulder and relaxing her muscles. In the stands, Lord Orochimaru said he wanted to start the invasion during the Ichibi's match, but he was hoping it would be against the Uchiha. Gaara disguised Anbu as he glanced over at the cage box, specifically at the disguised Kasuke. It seemed that the imposter felt eyes on him, because not a second after the disguised Anbu looked at him, the Kasuke made eye contact with him. Taking this as a sign to begin, the Anbu was about to place his genjutsu on the crowd before the Kasuke moved his hand slightly, signaling him to hold off on placing the genjutsu. What could Lord Orochimaru be waiting for? Does he want Sasuke to fight the Ichibi before we start the invasion? Thought the Anbu with a confused expression hidden behind his mask. In the arena. The third match, Karui versus Gaara of the desert. Are the both of you ready? Asked Genma as he chewed on his senbon. Karui nodded with a determined look in her eyes while Gaara simply uncorked his guard and let his sand start to surround him. Raising his arm, Genma brought it down before jumping back out of the way of the two gen and begin. Gaara didn't waste any time and immediately sent his sand at Karui, planning on crushing her into oblivion before she had a chance to do anything. Just like Naruto said, he hangs back and simply lets his sand do all the fighting for him, thought Karui before jumping out of the way of the incoming sand, and throwing a couple of shuriken at a gap in Gaara's sand. Said gap immediately closed before the shuriken could even get close, and they embedded themselves deep into the sand. Before Karui had a chance to try another attack, a clone of Gaara appeared out of the sand and threw the shuriken back at her, forcing her to backflip to avoid getting impaled by the shuriken. A sand clone? Well, it looks like Mr. Emotionless has more control over that sand of his than we first thought. Alright then, let's see how he handles this, thought Karui before she went through a quick series of hand signs before finishing in the bird sign. Water style water bullet jutsu. she said before launching 5 medium-sized globs of water at Gaara, who had yet to move since the match started. As expected, Gaara's sand came to his defense, and wrapped itself around him, forming a dome-shaped defense. Now, just before the water bullets were going to impact the sand dome, Karui cut the flow of chakra holding the water together and watched as the water soaked the sand. Said dome defense fell and launched itself at Karui once again, only this time at a slightly slower speed. With the Jounin. Clever girl, said Kakashi as he watched the sand continue its assault on Karui, who kept dodging and occasionally throwing a few kunai, or shuriken. What did she do that's clever this time, Kakashi? Asked Hinata as he turned to look at his cycloptic brother. The rest of the Jounin all turned to him for an explanation, all except Darui, who had a smirk on his face as he watched his student do battle against the Shikaku Jinchuriki. Something similar to what she did in the prelims when she immobilized Misumi, but instead of pushing lightning-based chakra out of her body, she pulled the chakra she was using to hold the water bullets together back into her body, causing the jutsu to collapse and the water to lose form and soak a good portion of the sand dome. If you look carefully at the sand, it's moving slower than it was when the match first started, said Kakashi as the others nodded in understanding and returned their attention to the match. With Naruto and Yugito. Good job, Karui, just a little longer, said Naruto quietly so only Yugito could hear him. Lifting her head from her boyfriend's shoulder slightly, Yugito turned to Naruto with a smirk playing on her lips. When do you think she'll forfeit and reveal what Gaara really is to everyone? She asked before turning back to watch as their teammate fired a few more water bullets and again cut the chakra flow to them before they impacted with Gaara's defense. She'll most likely do it after she lands a direct hit on Gaara, from what Kurama and Minato told us. Shikaku doesn't like it when his host is injured, and whenever they are injured he starts pumping their system full of more and more of his chakra, causing them to lose whatever sanity they have left, and just kill. When that happens, that's when we'll step in and flare Kurama's and Manabe's chakra to scare Shikaku off from attacking Karui, said Naruto as he watched Karui dodge the sand attacks from Gaara, which were moving at about half the speed they were when the match started. Cage box. It seems that your young Kunoichi is having a little bit of trouble with her opponent, said Sarutobi with a small smirk as he faced the young Houkage. Said Shinobi looked at the aged Kage with a frown that quickly turned into a smirk, causing Sarutobi to frown. No, she's not, she's just testing the waters, so to speak, but once she's ready you'll see what a real kunoichi in training is like. Not like those Uchiha fangirls I've heard about that were supposedly 2 of the top kunoichi in this year's class, said with his smirk growing at the end and causing smirks to appear on B and Dode's faces as well. The old Hokage's frown only deepened when I mentioned that, as he took it as an insult to their village's ability to train future ninja. The Kasuke, who had remained quiet throughout the conversation, was staring intently at the match as it progressed. It seems this Karui is more talented than I first thought. I better make sure she and her team don't survive the invasion. They could prove to be a problem later on down the line, thought the phony Kage as he discreetly signaled one of his guards to relay a command to the invasion force. Eliminate all Kumo ninja in the village. In the arena. What's happening? Something doesn't feel right, thought Gaara as he continued to direct his sand to attack the elusive Kumo Kunoichi. Said Kunoichi flipped over another wave of sand and sprinted up the stadium wall before launching a volley of kunai at Gaara. As expected, the sand came to Gaara's defense, but this time at a much slower speed, allowing for one of the kunai to graze Gaara's left cheek. Time seemed to freeze for a moment as those that knew Gaara watched with shocked expressions that somehow had actually pierced his ultimate defense. However, instead of blood dripping from the cut, sand started to leak out. What is that? Some kind of armor. Thought a shocked Karui. Well, this changes things, she thought before she drew her katana and charged her lightning chakra into it, and shaping it into a small serrated edge along the blade. Well, let's see how this works, thought the fiery kunoichi before she jumped from her place on the arena wall and slashed at the stationary form of Gaara. Kumo-style lightning saw, she said as she launched a flying saw pure lightning chakra at Gaara and watched as his sand once again came to his defense. Although instead of catching or blocking the attack like everyone expected, the electric field surrounding the saw arced and immobilized the sand defense. With the sand defense virtually useless, the lightning saw easily cut through the sand that had managed to surround the stunned Gaara and continued on its deadly path towards the Ichibi Jinchuriki. Gaara stood stunned that his defense had failed him for a second time that day. He was so stunned that he just barely managed to avoid the lethal attack, though he didn't get away unscathed. Landing on the other side of the arena, Gaara cradled his now useless left arm. From his wrist to his shoulder, and large, cauterized gash was clearly visible for everyone to see. Gaara himself stared at his arm with complete shock at being injured. A single drop of blood fell from the injury and landed in his hand, bringing his hand to his face. He stared at the red liquid in disbelief. What is this? He thought in shock. Blood, my blood. Suddenly the arena became enveloped in a feeling of death and destruction as Gaara got a crazed look in his eyes and his sand began to swirl around him at increasing speeds. Blood, my blood. He roared, his voice taking on a demonic edge as his sand began to envelope him in a cocoon. Now, thought Naruto and Yugito before they blurred from the other genin's sight and appeared in front of Karui before they were both covered in their demonic cloaks. All life seemed to stop as the village was bathed in the demonic aura of not one, but three of the Bajal, one of them being the strongest one in existence. The civilians had felt uneasy with the demonic aura of Shukaku alone, but when they felt the familiar aura of death that only the Kyuubi could produce combined with a third aura, they immediately passed out. The ninja that were in attendance were fighting with everything they had not to pass out, while those that had witnessed and fought in the Kyuubi attack were shaking with fear. Cage box. That girl, she's a Jinchuriki too. Thought the Hokage in shock as he watched his grandson, and the Kumo slut flare the demonic chakra that could only belong to a Bajoa. Taking a quick glance at his fellow cages, Sarutobi was surprised when he saw their reactions. The Kasage was shaking slightly with his eyes wide and surprised, although if one looked close enough they could see the faint outline of a smirk behind his veil-hidden face. Himself was smirking at the scene going on in the arena, with his bodyguards smirking along with him. What could they possibly find entertaining about this situation? Thought Sarutobi as he stared at the three Jinchuriki down in the arena. In the arena. That's enough, Shukaku, said Naruto with his voice on a demonic edge of its own. Gaara looked at the two people in front of him in surprise before he was enveloped in his own demonic cloak, with his eyes turning a gold color with a star pupil and 4 black dots around it. Kurama Matatabi? Asked the Shukaku Gaara, his voice becoming even more demonic. Yes, Shukaku, said Yugito before she turned a harsh glare on the red-haired host. Now would you care to explain why you are trying to kill our teammate? At the mention of Karui, Shukaku's eyes blazed with fury. She attacked me and my host, she managed to injure my host, she needs to die. He screamed as he attempted to use his sand to attack the red head behind the two Kumo Jinchuriki. Unfortunately for Shukaku, before his sand had a chance to get near his target, a chakra tail shot from behind Naruto and scattered the sand. We will give you one warning, Shukaku. She is our teammate, and if you even think of attacking her you will have us to deal with, said Naruto as he flared more of Kurama's chakra to get his point across. Shukaku recoiled when he felt the increase in Kurama's chakra coming from the blonde-haired host. Acting quickly, he nodded his head rapidly and mentally swore to himself never to cross his fellow Bajal ever again. Good. Then our task here is done. Remember, Shukaku, we'll be watching you. With that, Naruto and Yugito let their cloaks fall before blurring away and returning to their places in the competitor's box. Shukaku quit pumping his chakra into his host, letting the cloak around him fall, and returning control to Gaara. Karui smirked at seeing many of the civilians starting to come around now that the demonic aura had receded. Her smirk turned feral when she noticed Genma out of the corner of her eye. Turning to him, she raised her hand. Proctor, I forfeit. There's no way I can hope to stand up to someone who holds a Bajoa inside of themselves. The second she said this, looks of shock appeared on Genma's and Gaara's faces, as well as the faces of everyone in the stands. Genma barely managed to nod his head and declare Gaara the winner before all hell broke loose in the stands as civilians began cursing Gaara for existing, while the ninja present were doing everything they could to keep the civilians from causing any more trouble than they already were. While all of this was going on, no one noticed the smirks that appeared on the faces of all the Kumo ninja as they enjoyed the show that was going on. all according to plan, was the simultaneous thought that went through each of their heads as they readied themselves for the invasion that was just on the horizon. Chapter 13. Silence. Screamed Sarutobi as he stood at the edge of balcony overlooking the stadium. The disappointment he felt at his people for their treatment of Jinchuriki seeping into his voice. His command was ignored by the civilians as they continued to try and find anything they could use as a weapon and get down to the arena so they could kill Gaara. Frowning at his orders being ignored, the aged Kage flared his chakra and unleashed massive amounts of killing intent on the civilians in the stands. That seemed to do the trick as everyone in the stands froze in fright as the feeling of certain once again covered the arena. The civilians and shinobi in attendance turned to source of the incredibly thick killing intent only to see their Hokage glaring at every last one of them. You should be ashamed of yourselves to treat a shinobi from an allied village in such a way simply because he carries a burden you do not understand is a disgrace to the village of Konoha. But Lord Hokage, we can't allow another demon spawn to taint our village. It was by the courage of us civilians that the Kyuubi spawn no longer taints our village, and it seems we'll have to take action once again to rid ourselves of another demon. Screamed a courageous, or foolish, civilian. This seemed to knock the other civilians out of their fear-induced stupors, and they tried to once again get down to the arena to finish off another demon. It seems you don't have as much control over your villagers as you once though, Sarutobi, said with a smirk as he watched the crowd continue to try and attack Gaara. I can see why Naruto decided to leave this pathetic place. Unknown to A or his guards, the Hokage's frown immediately turned into a cunning smirk. If only you knew the truth, you ignorant excuse of a Kage, he thought before returning his attention to getting the crowd back under control. Rado, contact Ibiki and have him prepare his forces for any kind of attack. Knowing my former student, he wouldn't hesitate to use this kind of distraction to his advantage, whispered the Hokage to his lone bodyguard who nodded in understanding, quietly radioed the head of torture and interrogation to relay the orders. While his guard was handing out his orders, Sarutobi signaled one of the Anbu in the crowd to execute the civilian who spoke out against his orders. Nodding slightly in acknowledgement, the white-cloaked, wolf-masked Anbu vanished in a blur, only reappear behind the civilian that spoke and stab him in the neck with a kunai. The civilians froze when they saw this. They just couldn't believe that one of their own had just died at the hands of a Konoha shinobi and Anbu no less. As they stood there, staring at the lifeless corpse that was still standing with the wolf-masked Anbu looking at them from over its shoulder, daring them to try something. Their attention was dragged from the corpse by the feeling of certain death once again enveloping the arena. Turning to the source, they once again saw the Hokage glaring at them, and for the first time in years the civilians of Konoha saw what a true shinobi is. Someone who was willing to sacrifice everything for their village, someone who had shouldered the burden to protect and defend them so they could lead their normal lives, someone who wasn't afraid to remove any possible threat to them or to the village. All of you return to your seats so we can continue with the exam, ordered the Hokage in a voice that had not been heard since the end of the Third Great Shinobi War, a voice that demanded respect and showed the power he wielded, the voice of the god of shinobi. To stunned and scarred to argue, the civilians returned to their seats as the shinobi and kunoichi present remained at the ready, should anything else go astray. While all of this was going on, A, B and Doda were suppressing smirks at seeing the famed and feared god of shinobi being reborn. Konoha might just survive this thing after all. It looks like your plan is coming together, Naruto, thought all three men before they returned their attention to the arena where Genma had just called for the next match now that the crowd was controlled. The disguised Kasage, on the other hand, was frowning at this turn of events. With his secret weapon exposed, Konoha would be keeping a close on Gaara from now on and until he outside of Fire Country. Add in the fact that two of his new targets for the invasion were Jinchuriki and that they seemed to have a firm grasp of their Bajo's chakra, and his original plan for leveling Konoha was slowly coming apart at the seams. Damn Kumo, they are becoming a bigger threat than I anticipated, thought the false Kage with a snarl as he watched the next begin with Temurai using her battle fan to blow Shikamaru into the far wall. With Team 20. Good work, Karui, said Naruto as he gave his red-haired teammate a hug, before Yugito did the same. Everything is going exactly as planned. The shinobi are tensed and ready for anything thanks to the civilians. Even though it's unexpected, with the old man finally reclaiming his title as the god of shinobi, the chances of the plan succeeding during the invasion just doubled. True, but what about the final part of the plan, with the old man back to his true self? Won't that make things a little more complicated? Asked Karui as she leaned on the railing next to her teammates to watch the match. Yugito nodded in agreement from her place on the railing as she watched the match over her shoulder. Karui's right, Naruto-kun, with the old monkey acting like a cage again, it complicates things for us, she said as she turned her attention to her team. From the corner of her eye, however, she caught Hinata glaring at her with all the hatred she could muster. Smirking at the arrogant heiress, Yugito got off of the railing and leaned into Naruto's right side as his arm instinctively wrapped around her waist. Her smirk turning feral, Yugito watched as Hinata activated her Bakugan, attempting to make her glare even more deadly than it already was before turning her attention back to her boyfriend, who was watching the match with a critical eye. "No it doesn't," said Naruto, earning surprised looks from his team. "Normally that would pose a problem, but not in this instance. You see, the old man still thinks I'm working for Konoha, and he still believes I see him as a grandfather figure. That's his weakness, and that's what will cost him dearly when we play our final card. The emotional pain that it will cause for him will be more than enough to allow us time to make our escape." Nodding in understanding, the two kunoichi of Team 20 returned their attention to the match at hand and had to resist the urge to sweat drop as the lazy Nara forfeited the match even though he had Temurai caught with his shadow. "Typical Nara," sighed the three Kumo ninja before they adopted serious looks as Shikamaru and Temurai left the field. "It's time, don't hold back, Yugito-chan, do whatever it takes to eliminate her." "Right, Naruto-kun, I'll do what I can," said the Nibi Jinchuriki as she prepared herself for the match that was about to begin. With Genma. "Now for the final first round match, will Hinata, Hyuga and Yugito ni please come down," said Genma, as a very pissed off Hyuga heiress jumped down from the competitor's box. Yugito, on the other hand, took her time and gave her boyfriend a quick kiss before jumping over the railing and landing in front of Genma and across from Hinata. Said Special Jounin was currently sweating bullets as he slowly tried to back away from Hinata, who was doing her best to cause Yugito to internally combust with her glare alone. Smirking at her opponent's reaction, Yugito turned towards the competitor's box and blew another kiss at her boyfriend, completely turning her back on Hinata. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. Hinata charged at Yugito's unguarded back with fury pouring off of her in waves. Rearing her right palm back, the enraged heiress unleashed a vicious Gyuken strike aimed for the base of Yugito's spine. Spinning on her heel, Yugito swatted the palm strike away before continuing with her spin and delivering a vicious kick to the side of Hinata's head, sending her sprawling across the arena floor. "Now that wasn't very nice, the proctor hadn't even started the match yet," said Yugito in a scolding tone one would use when disciplining a child. Seeing that Hinata was shakily getting to her feet, Yugito turned to the scarred Genma before speaking in an innocent voice, "I think it would be wise to start the match, proctor." Not needing to be told twice, Genma quickly went through the standard procedure to start the match before he shunned Hinata to other side of the arena and out of harm's way, he hoped. Not wasting a second, Yugito charged at the wobbly Hinata with a kunai in hand. Thanks to her Bakugan, Hinata managed to jump to the side in time to avoid the lethal blade before she twisted in midair and kicked the blonde Jinchuriki away. "Pathetic, did you really think a straightforward attack would work against me, the heiress of the Hyuga clan?" said Hinata with the classic superior Hyuga smirk. Her smirk was replaced with a frown when she saw Yugito getting up from her kick and smirking at her before disappearing in a puff of smoke. What? How did she make a solid clone? Before she could even start looking around for her opponent, a familiar voice she despised sounded from behind her. "Fire style, fireball jutsu." Hinata managed to turn around just in time to be consumed by the unforgiving fireball. Yugito stepped out from the shadows she was hiding in and watched the flames of her jutsu burn the area that her opponent had been. Suddenly, the flames of her technique dispersed to reveal a spinning dome of chakra with Hinata in the center. Slowly the dome of chakra began to fall as Hinata slowed down, spinning on her heel. Taking advantage of the blatant opening, Yugito charged in and delivered a spinning roundhouse straight to Hinata's face, sending her tumbling to the other side of the arena near Genma. Slowly getting to her feet, Hinata glared at Yugito's relaxed form along with every member of the Hyuga clan that was present in the audience. "How," said Hinata as she got her footing back, "how did you get through the rotation? It is the ultimate defense jutsu." Yugito cocked an eyebrow at this, while waving her hand in a defensive manner. "Ultimate defense jutsu, yeah right," she said with a snort, earning her even harsher glares from the Hyugas present. "Your so-called ultimate defense is probably the weakest and most ineffective defensive technique I've seen. Sure, it can deflect an attack, but when you end the technique you're left completely open to attack, as I've demonstrated." The Nippy Jinchuriki said with a smirk, causing Hinata to turn red with fury, not to mention that when you're using the technique you can't even keep track of your opponent. Dojutsu or not, no one can keep track of anything while spinning at the speeds your ultimate defense requires. An eerie silence fell over the arena as everyone, civilians and shinobi alike, could do little more than stare open-mouthed at the blonde Jinchuriki. Everyone in the village knew of the Hyuga clan's ultimate defense technique, and that no one alive had ever been able to get through the defense to injure the Hyuga using it, until today. They couldn't believe some foreigner had just come along and not only gotten through the Hyuga defense, but also made the Hyuga clan appear as fools in front of everyone. The silence was ended when the arena was filled with massive amounts of killing intent, all of it coming from the Hyuga section of the stands. With Hayashi Hyuga. How dare that insignificant whore insult the power of the Hyuga clan and the Byakugan. Hinata, if you do not manage to kill this urchin by the end of the match, I will take matters into my own hands, thought an enraged Hyuga clan head as he, along with every member of the main house present, glared at Yugito with their Byakugans blazing. In the arena. "You bitch, you'll pay for insulting the Hyuga clan," screamed Hinata as she charged at Yugito, fully intent on obliterating her from existence. Smirking at the enraged heiress, Yugito quickly went through a couple of hand signs before finishing in the tiger sign. Fire style, Phoenix Flower Jutsu, bringing her right hand to her mouth, Yugito launched multiple small fireballs at the charging heiress. Channeling chakra into her hand, Hinata swatted the first of the fireballs away, only to receive a cut on the back of her hand courtesy of the shuriken hidden inside of the flames. "Shuriken," thought Hinata in surprise before she quickly changed tactics and started weaving in and out of the fireballs and continued her charge towards the Kumo Kunoichi. "So she wants a taijutsu match, fine by me," thought Yugito as Hinata finally closed the distance between them and unleashed a barrage of Gyuken strikes at her. Dodging one of the strikes, Yugito sent a quick punch towards Hinata's stomach, only to have it blocked by Hinata's open palm. Acting on instinct, Yugito quickly grabbed onto the wrist of the hand that blocked her punch and used it as leverage to pull her opponent into a crushing knee to the abdomen. Jumping away slightly, Hinata gasped for air before falling into the opening stance for one of the signature Hyuga techniques. 8 trigrams 64 palms, she said before she unleashed the technique onto the waiting Yugito. 2 palm. Her 2 strikes were easily dodged and countered by a kick to the head. Ducking under the kick, Hinata continued with her attack. 4 palm. Again her strikes were dodged or blocked and she was forced to dodge a counterattack. 8 palm 16 palm 32 palm. Completely blinded by rage that all of her strikes were dodged or blocked as if they were nothing, Hinata entered the final set for her technique. 64 palm. As she watched the Kumo Kunoichi continue to dodge her strikes with ease, Hinata did something that hadn't been done by a Hyuga in generations. She altered her technique's attack pattern. As she was nearing the end of her technique, Hinata subtly reached out with her foot and kicked Yugito's feet out from under her. Taking advantage of her opponent's loss of balance, Hinata quickly sent the last strike in her technique towards Yugito's unguarded throat, intent on ending the match by killing her opponent. However, instead of feeling her opponent's windpipe shatter under her fingers like she expected, the Hyuga heiress was suddenly let out a scream of pain as her entire body was filled with electrical energy. The Yugito in front of her vanished in a shower of sparks, revealing it to be a lightning clone, as the real Yugito appeared from behind Genma before going through some more hand signs. "Lightning style raising lightning jutsu," she said as the ground around Hinata began to shake slightly before multiple lightning bolts burst through the earth in random locations. Hinata, Despite her slightly paralyzed state, dodged most of the lightning bolts that erupted around her, and attempted to move towards her unmoving opponent in hopes of getting in close again. Her hopes were shattered though, as a bolt of lightning erupted from directly beneath her and pierced through her left leg as if it were butter. An ear-piercing scream escaped from Hinata as she fell to the ground holding her now blackened leg. "Looks like this match is over," said Yugito as she unsheathed her wakizashi and held it in the reverse grip before charging at the prone heiress. With Hayashi Hyuga. "We cannot allow this continue, it is time this whore learned her place," thought Hayashi before he and several other members of the main house vanished in blurs. With Naruto. "That a girl," said Naruto as he watched his girlfriend incapacitate her opponent, before moving in to finish her off. Turning to Karui, Naruto noticed several blurs heading towards the two battling kunoichi Yugito to be specific. "Shit, come on Karui," said Naruto in a rush before he jumped over the railing with Karui not far behind before turning towards the stands. "Sensei, we need you." A blur vanishing from the stands was the only reply he got before the three Kumo ninja intercepted the group heading towards Yugito and Hinata. An eerie silence once again spread over the arena as the spectators watched the standoff taking place in the arena with bated breath. Team 20 stood across from Hayashi Hyuga and 5 other members of the Hyuga main house with looks of absolute rage. Their Hyuga counterparts glared back with equal rage as the tension in the air kept building. Nobody moved, nobody breathed for what felt like an eternity before Naruto broke the silence with a tone that sent a shiver up the spines of even the most veteran shinobi present. "What do you think you're doing interfering with this match?" he asked as he tightened the grip in his ninjato in case things came to a head. It was Hayashi that answered, his voice both angry and arrogant at the same time. "Who are you to question the will of the Hyuga clan?" he said with a glare at the blonde boy. "This lowly whore tried to kill the heiress of our clan. By law, we have a right to take whatever action necessary to remove any threat to our clan. Now stand aside and let us to put that worthless waste of life in her place for you. After all, you are from a powerful clan yourself. Why would you care what happens to this piece of filth?" The temperature in the arena plummeted as Hayashi finished speaking. Everyone who had been present at the Battle of the Great Naruto Bridge immediately knew what was coming, while every Kumo ninja present and Naruto's siblings all had one thought run through their heads when they heard what Hayashi had said: "Oh fuck." Naruto's body erupted in red chakra as he glared at the Hyuga clan head with blazing crimson red, slitted eyes. The fox head on his ninjato slowly started to open as Naruto's anger and killing intent kept rising. Acting quickly, Darui and Karui moved to block Naruto's path while keeping an eye on the Hyuga clan members who were covering their eyes in pain from looking at all of the chakra Naruto was unleashing. Yugito grabbed onto the front of her boyfriend's cloak before bringing his face to hers and engaging in a kiss that definitely wasn't appropriate in public. Cage box. "Hayashi, you fool, Naruto may be working for Konoha as a spy, but Kumo will gladly declare war on us if anything were to happen to their ninja outside of the exams," thought a furious Hiruzen Sarutobi as he glared down at the form of the head of the Hyuga clan. He not only risked war with his little stunt, but also risked us losing Naruto, and all of the information and jutsu he would be bringing us. The aged Hokage took a glance at the Raikage next to him and was completely shocked at what he saw. Instead of being furious and shouting out demands for such an outrage, the young Raikage merely smirked at the scene playing out before them with a bit of blood leaking from his nose as he watched the two blondes continue to kiss. Shaking his head at what he saw, Sarutobi stood up and walked to the edge of the balcony before shouting in a chakra-enhanced voice. "Due to the interference of the Hyuga clan, Hinata Hyuga is hereby disqualified from the tournament. The winner of the match is Yugito ni," he said, while forcing the blonde slut's name past his lips as he tried not to choke on his own vomit at having declared the Kumo slut the winner of the match over the person he believed Naruto should truly be with. In the arena, Yugito pulled away from kissing her boyfriend when she heard the Hokage speak and had to suppress a smirk at the looks of rage on the faces of every Hyuga clan member present. Grabbing Naruto by the arm, she quickly led him back towards the competitor's box with Karui following behind. Darui sighed as he watched his students return to the competitor's box and glared at the retreating backs of the Hyuga clan members as Hinata was carried away by the medics, before he shunshed a nod back to his seat in the stands. Well, that went well, said Kakashi with a nice smile, as the rest of the former Konoha Jounin all looked at him like he was crazy. Well, you think that went well? A second longer and the arena would have become a war zone between the Hyuga and Naruto's team. Can you say that went well? Screamed Anko as she took a deep breath, while glaring at the cycloptic Jounin. Guy, Kurena and Hayate were thinking the same thing, though they refrained from glaring at Kakashi as they knew he had to have a reason. Said Jounin just pulled out his favorite orange book, causing Anko to glare at him even harder and earning a slight glare from Kurena as well. It went well because the last time I saw someone insult or threaten Yugito like that in front of Naruto, he went on a rampage and killed hundreds of thugs and bandits in a matter of seconds, Kakashi said in a casual tone as if talking about the weather. This stunned the remaining 4 Jounin as this was the first they had heard the disastrous mission their fellow Jounin had taken his genin team on. Turning to Darui, 4 pairs of eyes silently probed for any kind of confirmation to what Kakashi had said. It's true Naruto is more protective of Yugito than Kakashi is of his books, he said with a shrug since he had come to accept that Naruto would go to any lengths to protect Yugito. 4 pairs of eyes widened as they turned to look at their little brother being calmed down by his teammates, each thinking along the same lines. Note to self: when Naruto's pissed, get Yugito. In the arena, Genma was doing his best to shake off of the shock at nearly being caught in the crossfire of the Kumo team and the Hyuga clan. Finally composing himself, he turned to the crowd before speaking, his voice still holding a bit of shock in it. That concludes the first round of matches. The next matches will be Naruto Namikaze vs. Sasuke Uchiha, followed by Gaara of the Desert vs Temurai of the Desert, and Yugito Ni will proceed straight to the finals. We will have a short intermission to allow our competitors time to recuperate from their matches. We will resume in 10 minutes time. After 10 minutes of the tension growing for the genin competing, and one calmer Naruto later, Genma quieted the crowd down and began the second round of the tournament. The first match of the second round, Naruto Namikaze vs Sasuke Uchiha. Will the two of you please come down? Sasuke wasted no time and jumped over the railing, landing in front of Genma with his usual Uchiha scowl as he glared up at the still shirtless Naruto. Said blonde merely smirked at him before giving his girlfriend a quick kiss and high-fiving Karui before jumping over the rail and landing across from the world's biggest emo. Well, I was wondering when you and I would finally get a chance to have that rematch of ours, said Naruto with his patented fox smirk etched on his face. Sasuke's glare only intensified at that comment, drawing a chuckle from the shirtless blonde. What? You're still not sour about that spar in Wave Country, are you? Onyx eyes bled to the crimson red of the Sharingan with 2 tomi in each eye as Sasuke started going through hand signs. Genma barely had time to start the match and jump out of the way before the Uchiha launched a fireball at our favorite blonde. Sasuke smirked when he saw the fireball impact with Naruto and start to burn the surrounding area. His smirk vanished when the fireball suddenly split down the middle, and the flames dispersed to reveal Naruto with his ninjato held in his right hand and looking as if nothing happened. Is that all you got, Uchiha? I expected more from the so-called last Uchiha. Oh wait, you're not the last Uchiha alive, are you? Said Naruto as his smirk grew when he saw Sasuke's eye darken with uncontrolled rage. Your brother Itachi is still alive, isn't he? Shut up. Once I kill you, I'll find that murderer and kill him too. Screamed Sasuke as he started going through hand signs again, fire style, Phoenix Flower Jutsu. Bringing his hand to his mouth, he launched well over 24 small fireball at the unmoving blonde. Sheathing his ninjato, Naruto quickly went through a few hand signs before bringing his right hand to his lips. Wind style, great breakthrough, he said before launching a huge gust of wind that extinguished the flames, revealing the shuriken hidden inside. Predictable, he said before going through a few more hand signs before ending in the snake sign earth style. Earthwall Jutsu. Leaning back, Naruto lurched forward and spit out a stream of mud from his mouth that grew and hardened into a wall, blocking the shuriken from reaching their target. Jumping up to the top of his wall, Naruto smirked at the look of rage and confusion on Sasuke's face. Surprised you couldn't copy my jutsu, Uchiha? said Naruto, shocking everyone in the audience that someone had managed to prevent the legendary Sharingan from copying their techniques. It's rather simple really, the Sharingan may have the power to copy any technique it sees, but that power is useless when the wielder is using a jutsu of their own. It's actually rather obvious and a major flaw in the Sharingan's abilities, since in order to copy a jutsu the wielder must have enough chakra to activate the power. Silence once again descended over the arena as yet again another foreigner had just defeated and exposed a major flaw in one of the most powerful Kekkei, Genkai in the village. No one was more surprised and angered that someone had pointed out a flaw in the Sharingan than Sasuke Uchiha. So mad was the last Uchiha that he completely forgot about the strategy he had come up with over the month break and jumped up onto the wall of the arena. Sharingan blazing, he went through 3 hand signs before cupping his left hand with his right. Everyone watched in shock as lightning started to gather in Sasuke's hand as he glared at the stunned blonde in the arena. With Naruto's siblings. Why that insolent little? See to Kakashi as he watched as his sorry excuse of a student continued to gather lightning in his hand. Guy turned to his eternal rival with a serious expression on his normally carefree face. Kakashi, how did he manage to get that jutsu? He asked as he stared at his comrade with a questioning gaze. Everyone else turned their attention towards the copy nin, each wondering the exact same thing. Taking a deep breath to calm him some, the cycloptic Jounin turned to face his fellow Jounin, and spoke in a tone of barely restrained anger. It must have been during the mission to Wave Country, Naruto and Sasuke finished their fight before Darui, and I did so. It's possible that Sasuke managed to copy the technique as I was preparing it to attack Zabuza. Darui nodded in agreement, as that was the most likely thing to happen, although that still raised a concern inside of the Kumo Jounin that he made known to everyone. Still, even if he had managed to copy the jutsu, the amount of training necessary to perform the jutsu could only be given by someone with a deep knowledge of lightning-based chakra. That raises the question, who could have trained the Uchiha to use the technique during the month-long break? This got some concerned looks from the former Konoha Jounin as they turned their attention back to the match. In the arena. That bastard, he stole Kakashi Naizen's original technique, you'll pay for that one, Uchiha, thought Naruto in a fury as he watched Sasuke continue to prepare his attack. Kurama, it's time we tested out the first of your jutsu. About time, Kit. I've been itching to see you use that technique, replied Naruto's tenant before he was covered in his demonic cloak with one tail. Naruto mimicked Sasuke, but instead cupped his right hand with his left and flexing his fingers like claws before he started pumping Kurama's chakra into his hand. The crowd watched in shocked horror as Naruto's right hand began to grow further around it before bursting into crimson-colored flames. Raising his head to meet the Uka's glare with his own, Naruto's eyes turned blood red with a slitted pupil while the sclera turned blacker than the darkest night, before he took off at speeds that surprised even his team and siblings at the Uchiha, who sped towards him with speeds surpassing that of a shogunin. Time seemed to slow down as the two genin sped towards one another, each intent on killing the other with their respective jutsu. The two were so focused on each other that they failed to notice that the civilians in the stands began to fall asleep, while the ninja present, who were still on edge from the earlier happenings, immediately dispelled the genjutsu around them. Just as the two of them were about to collide, an explosion of smoke appeared in the cage box before multiple blurs shot out of the smoke and onto the roof of the stadium. 2 blurs were also heading towards them, but neither genin was paying attention as they thrust their attacks at one another. Karui. Kitsune style, burning foxclaw. The 2 lethal techniques collided in an explosion of power before the 2 genin were sent flying in opposite directions. Naruto skidded to halt just as his team and siblings landed around him, all ready to begin fighting. I take it the invasion started? Asked Naruto as he slowly got to his feet. Yeah, said Kakashi as he watched the smoke from the explosion clear away, revealing Sasuke leaning against 2 shinobi with blank masks on. So, Sasuke was being trained by root shinobi. That explains things. As soon as he finished speaking, an explosion happened at the main gate of the village. When the smoke cleared, it revealed 3 giant snake summons as they crashed through the gate and began to destroy anything in sight. The 2 root shinobi took that as their cue to leave and carried away Sasuke's unconscious body with them. Looks like you're right about them using summons to get past the out-defense Naruto, said Hinata as he watched the root shinobi with a critical eye that only a master swordsman possessed. Naruto nodded in agreement before turning his attention to the newly created ceiling barrier around where the cages were. Yeah, let's hope my clones got their part completed in time to help out, he said before he did a quick analysis of the situation at hand. Alright, Karui and Darui sensei work with Hayate to clean up the garbage around here. The three sword-wielding ninja nodded in understanding. Kakashi, Kurena and Guy, I need you to spread out to the surrounding area and make sure that no more enemy shinobi get close to the arena. Once again, three nods were the only answer he got before he turned to Anko, I want you to track down Sasuke and those root shinobi. Do not engage them, but feel free to kill anyone else that happens to get in your way, sis, he said when he saw Anko pout at not being allowed to kill the annoying Uchiha. Yugito and I will help out the Hokages and the old man. I have feeling they're going to need all the help they can get. Alright, everyone move out, said Naruto before he and Yugito jumped towards the purple ceiling barrier. Unfortunately, he jumped away before he could see any of the smiles that spread across the faces of his teammate and siblings. He truly has the makings of a future Kage, and I know one day he'll become a Kage to surpass all others, was the general thought of all the Jounin present before each left to complete their assignments. The battle for Konoha had finally begun. Chapter 14. Konohagakure no Sato main gate. Hold the line, men, don't let them advance any further into the village, shouted Ibiki as he observed the battle from the top of a building. Damn, I should have taken that warning from the Namikaze brat seriously. If I had brought that silver-haired genin in, we might have been more prepared for this, thought Ibiki, inwardly cursing himself for dismissing the warning from the blonde Kumo genin so easily. Suddenly a shoyunin landed near him with a few cuts and bruises on his body. Turning to the panting shoyunin, Ibiki barked out, report. Sir, our forces are spread too thin. Squads 12 through 16 are currently trying to stall the summons from advancing into the village any further, while the remainder of our forces are trying to hold back the advancing Suna and Odo forces, said the shoyunin as he looked up at Ibiki to see the burly man frowning in concentration. What should we do, sir? Have squads 12 to 16 break off from engaging the summons and regroup with the main forces to hold the line. Before he could continue, the wide-eyed shoyunin interrupted him. But sir, what about the summons? We can't just ignore them and leave them to destroy the village. Leave the summons to the Anbu. I've already dispatched the demolition corps to aid in stopping the summons. Just get our men back on the front and hold back the invading forces, shouted Ibiki as the shoyunin quickly nodded his head before taking off to deliver the orders. Ibiki turned his attention to the three giant snake summons that were currently destroying anything in their path. As he continued to watch the summons destroy the village, 3 Akimishi clan members grew to the size of the Hokage tower and engaged the snake summons, one of which being the head of the Akimishi himself, Choza Akimishi. If Choza's getting involved, then Inoichi and Shikaku can't be far behind, whispered Ibiki with a smirk before 5 Suna ninjas suddenly turned and started attacking their allies with a glazed look in their eyes. Not far from them, a group of Odo shoyunin suddenly stopped in their tracks and grabbed onto their necks like someone was choking them. So the Inoshika-cho formation are making themselves known? I guess it's about time I joined the fray as well, he whispered to himself before turned to the invading forces and jumped down into the fray while making hand signs. Landing in front of a group of Suna jounin, he finished his hand signs before whispering, summoning Jutsu torture chamber. The world around Ibiki and the Suna jounin suddenly turned dark before a cage closed around them and the enemy jounin had their wrists and ankles bound in chains. Smirking to himself, Ibiki made a few more hand signs, causing the floor of the cage to open up, revealing dozens of gears of all shapes and sizes before wires wrapped around the trapped jounin and began to constrict around them, specifically their necks. Normally, I torture you for information, but I'm a busy man and I really don't have the time for that right now, so I'll just kill you and be done with it. With that said, he made on more hand sign. The gears started to rotate, pulling the wire around the Suna jounin's necks before finally cutting clean through them. Canceling the jutsu, Ibiki watched as more enemy shinobi charged them. Taking one last look around him, he saw the 3 Akimishis and the demolition core of the Ami getting pushed back by the snake summons. Damn it, if only Lord Drea were here, He cursed before engaging the charging shinobi along with the rest of his forces. A few blocks away from the stadium. Where do these cockroaches keep coming from? Asked Kurena as she kicked away another Odo Shoyunin. A few feet away from her, Kakashi had just stabbed another Suna Jounin in the neck with a kunai before turning to see another 3 ninja take his place. Cursing under his breath, he uncovered his Sharingan before placing the 3 ninja in a genjutsu and leaving them to kill each other. I don't know Kurena, but just keep them away from the arena, he said before taking out a shuriken and throwing it at some charging Odo ninja. Quickly going through hand signs, he whispered just loud enough for the Odo ninja to hear him, ninja art, shuriken shadow clone jutsu. The one shuriken turned into hundreds just before impaling the charging shinobi. Needless to say, none of them survived. I know that, Kakashi, said Kurena in an annoyed tone as she placed another enemy shinobi in a genjutsu. While she was doing this, however, she failed to notice an Odo Shoyunin sneaking up behind her with a Kodaki in hand. Before the enemy ninja had a chance to attack her though, he was stopped by a young voice's shout. Fang over Fang. Whirling around, the Odo Shoyunin barely had time to react before he was hit from 2 sides by what looked like twin tornadoes. Kurena and Kakashi turned to the source of the voice and watched as 2 Kibas stopped spinning and landed a few feet away from Kurena. Kiba, what are you doing here? Questioned Kurena with a stern expression on her face. One of the Kibas gulped slightly before shaking off his fear somewhat and answering. I came to help. We saw you guys heading this way, so we decided to come and lend a hand, said Kiba before he and the transformed Akamaru used their Fang over Fang to attack Asuna Shoyunin. We, said Kurena and Kakashi at the same time while sending a curious glance to each other. Yes, we, said a deep voice that was all too familiar to the 2 former Konoha Jounin. Turning around, the 2 Jounin came face to face with Asuma Sarutobi with a dead Suna ninja held in a headlock under his arm. Not far from him they saw a shadow moving across the ground before attaching to an Odo ninja's shadow holding him in place. Said ninja tried to break free before he was rolled over by a human meatball that shrank to reveal Choji with Shikamaru coming out of a shadowed alleyway. Asuma, I thought you were assigned to the west gate, said Kakashi as he spun around and sliced another ninja's neck open. I was, but when Rado radioed to the forces to keep on alert, I made my way to the arena to see if Pops needed any help, said Asuma as he blocked Asuna Shinobi's kunai with one of his trench knives, and used the other to gut the man. Right before I got there, the cage box went up in smoke and I saw you and Kurena heading this way. I rounded up the genin there and we came here to help, though I don't necessarily like having the genin fighting like this. It can't be helped one way or another, they'll eventually have to get used to fighting and killing, said Kakashi, though he had to hide the contempt in his voice. True, he didn't like putting children in harm's way, but these children were shinobi. They needed to learn to stand on their own and not rely on others to protect them, something his little brother and his teammates understood all too well. With Guy and Lee, the 2 taijutsu specialists were mowing through their opponents like a hot knife through butter. The invading Suna and Odo forces watched on in horror as the 2 green blurs continued to cut through their forces with their bare hands. Lee, we must not let these unyouthful shinobi get near the stadium. If we don't stop them here, our flames of youth shall dampen, shouted Guy as he punched a hole clean through Asuna Jounin's chest. Yes, Guy-sensei, I will not allow them to get any further than here, and should I fail to do that, then I shall run from one side of the continent to the other on my hands, and if I cannot do that I will. Lee said, but was interrupted when an Odo Shoyunin tried to stab him with a kunai. Grabbing onto the man's wrist, Lee gave him a sharp elbow to the chest, effectively knocking the wind out of him, before jumping up to deliver a spin kick to the side of the man's head. Such unyouthfulness, he said before he jumped over to his sensei, and the 2 of them began destroying the ranks of the enemy shinobi. In the arena, Hayate ducked under the kunai of Asuna Shinobi before running him through with his sword. Seeing an Odo Shinobi coming at him from the right, Hayate twisted his sword that was still buried in the Suna Shinobi's chest before cutting clean through the Suna Shinobi and decapitating the charging Odo Shinobi. Flicking the blood off of his sword, Hayate turned to see how his fellow swordsmen were faring. Darui was using his cleaver sword to his advantage and easily chopping down any enemy who dared to approach him while flicking kunai every now and then to stop charging enemies. Karui was using her katana to cut down her opponents with a deadly grace. Because she was a genin kunoichi, many of the male shinobi thought she was easy pickings and tried to gang up on her. Big mistake on their part. They soon learned that Karui was more than capable of defending herself and was proving it by aiming to cut off any male's junk that tried to attack. Wincing as he watched the Kumo kunoichi cut another man's junk off, Hayate quickly turned away and began to cut through enemies with the speed and precision of a master. With Karui ducking under another kunai that was thrown at her, Karui spun on her heel and gutted the 3 Odo shinobi who tried to surround her. Just as she was about to try and find another enemy to fight, she was forced to block a katana that was coming down of her. Following the blade, she found that her attacker was a girl with 2 buns on her head that resembled a panda. "You're that Tenten girl, aren't you?" asked a somewhat shocked Karui. Getting a forced nod from the girl, Karui pushed her blade back and got some distance between the two of them. "What the hell's with you? Your village is being invaded, and I'm trying to help you. Why are you attacking me?" "Because that teammate of yours killed Neji-kun," said the enraged Tenten with a glare that could put even the Shinigami on edge. Karui just blinked in confusion for a few seconds before realization suddenly dawned on her. "You had a crush on him, didn't you?" she said as she unconsciously readied her blade, knowing this fight couldn't be avoided. "I loved him, and now thanks to your teammate, I'll never get the chance to tell him," shouted Tenten as her tears started to fall, but her glare never wavered in its intensity. "Since your teammate took away someone precious to me, I'll take away someone precious to him." With that declaration, the enraged weapons user charged at Karui with her katana at the ready. Raising her own katana, Karui blocks Tenten's downward slash before breaking away and swinging at Tenten's legs. Jumping over the strike, Tenten sent a kick at Karui's head, which she rolled out of the way of. Not letting up in her assault, Tenten took out 3 kunai and threw them at the Kumo kunoichi before following them in. Blocking the 3 kunai, Karui failed to notice Tenten's slash at her side until the last second. Karui barely managed to jump in time to avoid a fatal injury, but she received a small gash across her abdomen. "Okay, time to get serious," said Karui as she started charging her lightning chakra into her katana and shaping it into a row of serrated teeth along the edge of her blade. Kumo-style lightning saw, swinging her lightning-infused katana at her panda-like opponent, a spinning saw of pure lightning launched at the weapon's mistress. Jumping out of the way of the attack, Tenten landed across from Karui with a smirk on her face. Her smirk vanished when she felt a shock run through her body. Looking down at her leg, she noticed a gash that sparked a few times before dying down. Returning her attention to her now smirking opponent, the 2 kunoichi readied their katanas before charging in to continue their fight. Outside the ceiling barrier. "What are we going to do now? We must help Lord Hokage," said a bird-masked Anbu member wearing a brown cloak. Turning to his right, the Anbu glanced at the wolf-masked Anbu wearing a white cloak. "Captain?" said Anbu. Captain was currently deep in thought about the current situation and what they could do to help their leader. "The only way to break this barrier is for Lord Hokage to kill one of the ones holding the barrier together, but now that they've constructed a barrier on the inside, that option is out of the question. If we try to get through the barrier using force," his thoughts trailed off as he glanced over at the charred remains of his subordinate. Before he could think further on the matter, 2 blonde blurs appeared beside him. The 3 Anbu whirled around ready to fight, only to come face to face with Naruto Namikaze and Yugito Ni. The wolf-masked Anbu was about to ask what they were doing when he was cut off by his lion-masked subordinate. "What are you doing here, demon?" Before Naruto could respond, he was cut off by the wolf-masked Anbu of all people. "Silence, you fool, show Lord Namikaze the respect he deserves," said the Anbu captain in a voice that left no room for argument. The 2 Kumo ninja were slightly surprised that a Konoha Anbu would not only defend Naruto, but also show him respect. "That's right, I forgot that Anbu captains are privy to classified information that regular Anbu aren't. Perhaps I can use that to my advantage," thought Naruto before turning to address the wolf-masked Anbu. What's the situation? The lion-masked Anbu looked like he was going to say something, but was stopped by a look from his superior. Returning his attention to the two blondes before him, the white-cloaked Anbu began his explanation. Lord Namikaze Orochimaru has trapped Lord Hokage the Raikage inside of the barrier, and so far all methods to break the barrier have either failed or been stopped. Naruto nodded absent-mindedly as he studied the barrier for anything that could be useful. His eyes widened when he felt something off about the chakra running through the barrier. Turning to his girlfriend, he spoke in a tone that was a mix of surprise and humor. Yugito-chan, what do you sense from the chakra forming this barrier? Yugito gave him a confused look before closing her eyes and focusing on the barrier. After a few seconds her face lit up in surprise before melting into one of understanding. The chakra forming the barrier isn't normal chakra, she said, surprising the Anu present though, it's not demonic either. What are you talking about? Asked the bird-masked Anbu as he glanced at the barrier preventing them from aiding their leader. Simple, the chakra in this barrier isn't normal human chakra, nor is it the demonic chakra possessed by the Bajoa, said Yugito in what many would call lecture mode instead. It's a bastardized version of demonic chakra. It possesses similar qualities to that of demonic chakra, but still retains most of its human attributes. It's an unstable and dangerous attempt at creating a new type of chakra that surpasses everyday human chakra. The three Anbu stared at the blonde Kumo Kunoichi in stunned silence. The fact that she could glean all of that from just sensing the chakra making the barrier was astounding to the Konoha Shinobi. Meaning that even though it possesses demonic qualities, regular demonic chakra can easily overpower it, said Naruto before he nodded at Yugito, and the two of them were shrouded in the demonic chakra of their Bajoa. Before the three Anbu could react, the two Jinchuriki leapt from their position on the roof and were on a collision course with the ceiling barrier. To the awe of the Anbu and the shocked horror of the sound, for instead of erupting into flames, the two Jinchuriki easily passed through the barrier before jumping to where the two cages were facing Orochimaru. With the cages and Orochimaru same time. So this was your plan all along, Orochimaru? Asked Sarutobi from his position in Orochimaru's headlock with a kunai to his neck. A, B and Dodai were a little ways away watching the exchange with interest, each silently waiting for the fireworks to begin. So what happened to the real Keisuke? Oh, I think I left his body lying in some ditch a few miles outside the village, said Orochimaru casually as if he was talking about the weather. Whatever it is you seek here in the village, you won't get it, said Sarutobi before his body started to turn brown. Surprised, Orochimaru plunged his kunai into Sarutobi's neck, causing the clone to collapse into a puddle of mud. Turning to the other three shinobi trapped in his barrier, Orochimaru saw his old sensei wearing his full battle gear a few feet away from them. I'll stop you before you get a chance to carry out your plans. Hearing this, the snake Sannin couldn't help but start chuckling before he erupted into a full maniacal laugh. You're a fool, sensei, I have already got what I came for, he said, causing Sarutobi to frown, while the three Kumo shinobi just raised a curious eyebrow at the statement. I gave Sasuke-kun my curse mark back in the Forest of Death. No matter what you do, he will eventually come to me for power. Scowling at his former student, Sarutobi vanished from his spot only to reappear behind Orochimaru with his hands in the snake sign. Earth-style Earth Flow River, a river of mud erupted in front of the third Hokage, carrying his surprised ex-student with it. Going through more hand signs at a rate that surprised the Kumo shinobi, Sarutobi once again finished with the snake sign. Earth-style Earth Dragon Bomb, a dragon head formed at the beginning of the mud river and started firing globs of earth at the snake Sannin. Not letting up in his assault, Sarutobi once again went through hand signs, only this time ending with the tiger sign. Fire-style Fire Dragon Bomb, letting loose a torrent of white-hot flames. Sarutobi watched as the flames ignited his earth projectiles and impacted with the pale-faced Sannin. Everyone was surprised as they watched the exchange. Dodai's expression, though, turned thoughtful as he contemplated what he had just witnessed. So this is what the feared god of shinobi is capable of. To think that he could use fire and earth-style ninjutsu to this extent without a Kekkei Genkai similar to mine is just mind-boggling. Naruto, I hope you know what you'll be up against when this is all over. Said Shinobi was still glaring at the place where his attack had hit. Come out Orochimaru, I know you're hiding. The Kumo shinobi watched as the pale form of Orochimaru slowly rose from the ground, still wearing the stolen robes of the Kakashi. Kukukuku, you always did like to ruin my fun, sensei. Oh well, I suppose we should get this show started, but first, he said, turning to the Hokages and his guards, what side will you fight for? Will you side with Konoha, who has shunned and scorned one of your most promising genin, or will you side with me and help to destroy this pathetic village? Sarutobi turned wary eyes on the Hokages. Naruto may still be loyal to Konoha, but the Hokages and everyone else in Kumo would do anything to keep him in that village, even if it meant declaring war on Konoha. Orochimaru was also watching the Hokages with a critical eye. No matter what his decision, he and every one of his shinobi in the village will be dead when this is over. Although, facing the Hokages, his guards, and the old fool all at once will be tricky. Even though I hate this village with a passion, you are too dangerous to be left alive. For that reason alone, I'll put my hatred aside and fight with Sarutobi to end you here and now, said it as he fell into a taijutsu stance as he drew two of his swords and got into a stance, while Dodai gathered his chakra and drew a kunai. Sarutobi frowned slightly, but then fell into a stance alongside the Hokages as they prepared to attack the Snake Sannin. Orochimaru frowned as he observed his opponents for a second before throwing away the Kakashi robes and sinking into his own stance. Neither side moved, each waiting for the other to strike first. Orochimaru tensed his body to attack before his senses kicked in and he jumped back, barely avoiding the kunai that would have taken out his neck. Turning to where the knife was thrown, Orochimaru saw two blonde blurs before his senses kicked in again, and he jumped out of the way of three more kunai. Landing near the edge of his ceiling barrier, the pale-faced Sannin had to hide his surprise at the sight that greeted him. Standing beside the Hokages was none other than Naruto, Namikaze, and Yugito Ni, each ready for a fight. AB and Dodai smirked at seeing their two favorite blondes ready to fight alongside them. The Hokage, on the other hand, couldn't hide his shock. Naruto, what the hell are you doing here and how did you get past the barrier? Apparently this question was on everyone's mind as they all turned curious or furious eyes to the two blondes. Simple, old man, this barrier informed from a bastardized version of demonic chakra, meaning that regular demonic chakra can easily pass through it, said Naruto as he eyed his opponent warily. Orochimaru seemed surprised for a moment before it was replaced with his usual maniac grin. Kukukukaku, my, you sure are the clever one, aren't you, Naruto-kun? Perhaps I should have given you my mark instead of Sasuke-kun, said Orochimaru as his opponents all turned to glare at him. He was about to continue taunting them when a massive fireball came from above him, forcing him to dodge. Looking up, he noticed a clone of Naruto smirk at him before disappearing in a puff of smoke. Turning back to the original, he barely had time to react as two more fireballs were about to consume him. Jumping over the unforgiving flames, Orochimaru prepared to launch his own jutsu, but was stopped by a powerful punch to the gut, courtesy of the Hokages. Not letting up in his attack, started to beat the Sannin into a pulp before finally sending him hurtling towards the roof with a massive axe kick. He wasted no time in taking the opportunity his brother provided. Jumping up to meet the falling Sannin, he moved to cut his head clean off. Unfortunately, just as he cut the pale man's head off, the Orochimaru in front of him turned into mud. Cursing under his breath, he turned in midair, looked around for the slippery snake. Dodai, watching the altercation from his position on the roof, noticed movement behind the eight-tailed Jinchuriki. Quickly going through hand signs, the lava user formed a rubber rope in his hands before swinging it to catch B's ankle. "Be behind you." B looked behind him only to see Orochimaru with a sword coming out of his mouth ready to impale him. Just as the sword was about to cut into him, B felt himself being pulled down towards Dodai and his fellow Jinchuriki. Landing next to them, B smiled in thanks before returning his attention to Orochimaru. Said snake user swallowed his kusanagi before turning to glare at the group of shinobi he was facing. Before he had a chance to do anything though, a shadow overcame him before an all too familiar voice came from above him. Guillotine drop. Looking up to the source, Orochimaru barely had time to register the threat before he was the victim of a falling axe kick, courtesy of the Hokages. Jumping away from the impact site, landed back next to B while keeping a close eye on where Orochimaru was. Come on out, you snake freak. They heard chuckling before Orochimaru slowly started to come out of the roof with almost no injuries from the exchange. Kukukuku, I must say this fight is much more entertaining than I could have hoped for. Although, I think it's time we evened up the odds a little bit, don't you agree? Said Orochimaru before he snapped his fingers and a small opening appeared in the barrier behind him, and 3 blurs shot through it before the barrier resealed itself. The blur stopped next to Orochimaru, revealing 3 shinobi wearing blank masks with the kanji for root on the forehead. Everyone, I'd like to introduce you to my old subordinates from my time in Root. Sarutobi tensed as he remembered the few times he had worked with Danzo's Root during the Third Great Shinobi War. Be on your guard, Root shinobi are not to be underestimated. Danzo raised them to be emotionless killers under his command. I guess with his death they turned to one of their own, said Sarutobi as he bit his thumb before going through 5 familiar hand signs. Summoning jutsu. Out of the puff of smoke that appeared came the one and only Monkey King himself, Enma. So it's Orochimaru again, is it? Hiruzen. I take it things have gotten pretty dire for you to summon me, said Enma, as he glared at Orochimaru, who frowned slightly at this new turn of events. Yes, Enma, we need to use the adamantine staff, said Sarutobi as Enma nodded in understanding before performing a single hand sign before transforming into a black staff with golden tips. Prepare yourself, Orochimaru. Today, I correct the mistake I made all those years ago. Kukukuku, is that so, sensei? Then maybe I should call in a little more help, said Orochimaru before he started going through hand signs at an incredible rate. Clapping his hands together at the end of the sequence, Orochimaru smirked when he noticed Sarutobi's wide eyes summoning jutsu reanimation. A coffin rose from the ground in front of Orochimaru with the kanji for first engraved on the front. A second one appeared next to the first, but instead with the kanji for second on it. Sarutobi watched with bated breath as the coffin slowly opened, while everyone else was preparing for the worst. Gasps came from everyone when they saw who was inside of the coffins. Standing before them were none other than the first and second Hokages, Hashirama and Tobirama Senju. You bastard! How dare you desecrate their names with that cursed jutsu, said Sarutobi through gritted teeth as he watched the 2 confused Kages look around them before their eyes settled on Sarutobi. You've gotten old, sorry, said Tobirama as he looked at his old student and successor. I'm curious though, what are you doing with Kumo ninja? It appears that he is fighting alongside them against us, said Hashirama when he noticed Orochimaru behind them with 2 control tags in his hands. Tobirama turned to look at the tags before he nodded in understanding. I see, so we have been brought back by my own forbidden jutsu. Orochimaru merely smirked before he placed the tags in the back of their heads. Now that the numbers have been evened up, why don't we get back to business, shall we? Said Orochimaru before he turned to the 3 root members. Dejima, you handle the Raikage, Terai and Tera, you 2 handle the Kumo Jounin. As for you 2, I want to dispose of those 2 blondes. I want to see the look on Sarutobi sensei's face when someone he cares for is killed by his own teachers. Naruto and Yugito tensed as they prepared for the hardest fight of their lives. Before any of them had a chance to react though, the 2 Hokages shot forward, compelled by the tags to obey Orochimaru. Cursing under his breath, Naruto grabbed Yugito and jumped away from the charging brothers just in time to avoid 2 bone-shattering punches. Trying to take advantage of the revived brothers' close proximity, a spun on his heel aiming to kick the 2 in the head. Before his attack come land, however, the 2 brothers jumped over the leg and continued on their way to the 2 blondes. Turning to pursue the 2 Hokages, was forced to jump away as a fist the size of a horse nearly crushed him. Turning to face his attacker, saw one of the root Anbu that was with Orochimaru block his path. Damn it, he muttered before glancing at B and Dodai, only to find them facing off against one the root Anbu as well. Cursing under his breath, returned his attention to his opponent before falling into his taijutsu stance. Better make this quick, Naruto and Yugito are gonna need all the help they can get. With Sarutobi and Orochimaru. You're a coward, Orochimaru, only a truly twisted person would use such a jutsu and then have those 2 attack mere children, said Sarutobi as he stared his old student down. Orochimaru merely chuckled before sinking into his taijutsu stance. I know you would be happy, sensei, after all, you are finally reunited with your old teachers. he said with a twisted smirk as he watched Sarutobi's face contort in anger. I've had enough of this, Orochimaru. It's time I did what should have been a long time ago, said Sarutobi as he charged his former student, his adamantine staff, at the ready. Somewhere outside Konoha. Are we almost ready? The attack has already begun, said a Naruto clone as he observed the other clones make the final touches to the summoning seal they had drawn. Just about, we just need to adjust the seal for whoever it is we plan to summon, said another clone as he finished drawing the outer part of the seal. Nodding in understanding, the first clone closed his eyes and went through who would be best suited to summon to handle the snakes destroying the village. Alright, adjust the seal to summon the Inferno twins. I'm sure they'd love to have some fun, said the first clone as the others nodded in agreement, and began to make the necessary adjustments. A few minutes later, the 6 clones were positioned around the seal, gathering the chakra necessary for the summoning. The 6 clones then began to go through the hand signs necessary for the summoning before they all finished in the ram sign. Opening their eyes, the 6 clones slammed theirs on the ground in front of them at the same time with a roar of summoning jutsu, Inferno twins. All fighting around the village stopped as a massive cloud of smoke appeared just outside the village walls. The Konoha ninja were worried that the enemy had summoned even more snakes to help destroy the village, while the invading forces thought that their allies must have summoned another snake to help them. As the smoke cleared though, the Konoha ninja couldn't stop the shiver that ran down their spines at the sight before them, while the invading forces were confused. They had never heard of anyone holding a summoning contract for that animal clan. Outside the walls of Konohagakure no Sato stood 2 four-tailed foxes. Their orange fur shone in the rays of the sun as they unleashed a mighty roar that shook the foundations of the village itself. Everyone who had lived through the Kyuubi attack 13 years ago was frozen in place, memories of that fateful night resurfacing. The roar of the Kyuubi as it attacked the village echoing in their ears as they all watched the 2 foxes slowly made their way to the village, each person silently praying to their fallen loved ones as it seemed they would soon be joining them in the afterlife. Chapter 15. With the Inferno twins? Who summoned me? Said the 2 foxes at the same time before they turned to each other with a fox's equivalent to a raised eyebrow. Hey bro, they said to each other before slapping one of their tails together, oddly resembling a high five. The 6 clones that had summoned the 2 foxes had to dodge some of the embers from the fire their tails hitting caused. Hey you 2, watch the fireworks would you? Screamed the first clone with his eyebrow twitching dangerously. The 2 foxes turned their attention to the top of the elder twin's head, only to come face to face with 6 irritated Naruto clones. Naruto-sama? Asked the foxes, getting a negative shake of the heads from the clones. No, we're clones, said the first clone before pointing to the dark purple barrier off in the distance. With our luck and who we are, the real one is most likely inside that barrier fighting against Orochimaru with the Hokages and everybody else. Then why have you summoned us? Asked the younger twin as he observed the village before them. Raising an eyebrow at the unmoving people in the village, the fox turned back to the Naruto clones. Any reason those humans wearing the dark blue are staring at us in fear while those gray and tan ones looked confused? Because we summoned you in the middle of an invasion. The dark blue ones fear you because this is the village that Kurama attacked 13 years ago. Before he was sealed inside of me, said one of the clones, causing the 2 foxes to snarl while the air around them began to heat up. Calm down you 2, this village's time will come, but not today. We need you to handle the 3 snakes in the center of the village. Why those snakes are destroying the village, I say we let them do as they want, said the elder twin as they watched the snake summons attack the 3 Akimishi members. No, said the first clone, when this village's time comes, we will be the ones to destroy it, and the entire Fox clan will be their help. For now though, I want some snake BK. What do you say guys? The 2 foxes smirked at this and looked at each other before nodding in agreement. Since you're just clones, you might want to stay out of this one if you don't want to get dispelled, said the elder twin before the clones jumped away and landed on some trees a ways away. Now then, shall we little brother? Yes my dear brother, we shall, said the younger twin before they both charged at the snake summons with a hungry glint in their eyes. With the clones. We do realize that those 2 will most likely cause as much collateral damage as they possibly can, right? asked one of the clone, while the others nodded in agreement. I wouldn't be surprised if they destroy half the village during their fight, but as long they leave the village standing enough so that we can destroy it later, then I really don't care, said the first clone with a smirk. Well, our part of the plan's complete, better let the boss know, the other clones nodded in agreement before dispelling in a puff of smoke. The first clone was about to do the same, until he felt a familiar demonic chakra nearby. The boss did plan on talking to him. I'm sure he won't mind if I do it for him, whispered the clone before jumping towards the source of the demonic chakra. With Kakashi and Kirena behind you, shouted Kakashi as he threw a kunai over Kirena's shoulder, killing the Odo Shoyunin that was about to stab her. Thanks Kakashi, she said as she spun on her heel and roundhouse kicked 3 Suna ninja in the face. Glancing over to where the 3 genin were fighting, she saw Shikamaru trap another 3 Odo ninja while Kiba and Choji hit them with their respective techniques. As she was looking at the genin, she felt like something was off. Glancing around at everyone else on the battlefield, she saw Kakashi frying a pair of Odo Jounin with a lightning jutsu and Asuma spinning on his heel and slicing 3 Suna Shoyunin into ribbons. She looked back over to the genin, and her answer slammed into her like an Akimishi's fist. Kakashi, she shouted, getting his attention, where are your other 2 genin, Sakura and Ino? Kakashi narrowed his only visible eye in confusion before he looked over at the 3 Konoha genin. His eye widened in understanding before he turned back to Kirena with a scowl on his masked face. Oh, those 2 better not have. He trailed off as he kicked another Odo ninja in face. With Anko, damn, I'll give those root bastards one thing, they sure know how to eliminate their trail, said Anko as she continued to jump through the trees outside the village. Too bad they can't eliminate the Uchiha Brat's trail for them. As she was jumping through the trees, a small, green snake with black spots scattered over its body poked its head over her shoulder. Mistress, the Ukas sent 200 yards to the north, and it seems he's begun moving on his own again. If my memory serves, they are nearing the border of Fire Country and Rice Country, said the snake, flicking its forked tongue a few times. Why would they be going to Rice Country? Asked Anko out loud as she continued to pursue her targets. She continued on in silence for a few more minutes, contemplating what her summon had told her before her eyes shot open in understanding. That's where the Odo village must be. She screamed before she picked up her pace. Damn it, Rice may be neutral, but no ninja is allowed in the country without checking in with the daimyo. If Odo is in Rice Country, then only Odo ninja are allowed in and out without hassle. Damn you, Orochimaru, you planned this, didn't you? She continued to pursue her targets for another few minutes before she reached the edge of the tree line, and the forests gave way to the grassy plains that bordered Rice Country. Son of a bitch, they're already across the border, she muttered before taking a quick glance around the area. She noticed light reflecting off of something on the ground. Moving over to the object, she raised an eyebrow in mild surprise at what it was, a Konoha headband with a slash through it. So the brat really did abandon Konoha. This should make things much more interesting. She was brought out of her thoughts by her summon poking its head over her shoulder again. Mistress, there are 2 scents 100 yards south by southwest of here. Judging by the scent trails in the air, they tried to follow you but lost track of you. They don't seem that strong either, the scent of their chakra is barely above what you would consider academy level, said the snake as Anko furrowed her brow in confusion. Thank you, Nio, I can handle things from here, said Anko as the small snake nodded before disappearing in a puff of smoke. Now to figure out who the hell was stupid enough to try and follow me. With Sakura and Ino. Nice going, Ino pig, thanks to you we lost that crazy snake lady, said an irritated Sakura as she and her blonde teammate continued to jump through the trees of Fire Country. Where's your excuse? You're a kunoichi too, you know. How about putting your skills to use and help me find her? Said Ino as she glared at her rival. You know I'm not a tracking type. I'm a genjutsu type kunoichi, said Sakura, her annoyance at her teammate clear in her voice. Well, I'm not a tracking type either. My dad says I'm more suited to be an interrogator, said Ino as she turned around to get in her teammate's face. And if you're a genjutsu type, then why don't you know any genjutsu? she said with a smirk as Sakura's face contorted in anger. Oh yeah? Well, how the hell are you supposed to be an interrogator? You only know one of your clan's jutsu, and you get squeamish at even the sight of blood, said Sakura as she glared at her blonde nemesis. The two wannabe kunoichi kept bickering back and forth like that for an indeterminate amount of time, completely unaware they were being watched. In a tree a few yards away. You have got to be kidding me? Those two were the ones who tried to follow me. What in the 7 levels of hell possessed them to do something this stupid? Screamed Anko in her head as she continued to watch the two girls bicker. Okay, as entertaining as this is, I thinks it's time I break up this fight. She though before jumping out of the tree she was in and landing in front of the two startled kunoichi. What the hell do you two think you're doing? Anko asked with a glare that sent a shiver down the two genin's spine. The two genin were so frozen in fear of the crazy jounin in front of them that they couldn't do much more than stare at her while shivering every now and then. Getting annoyed with their staring, Anko decided to try a different approach. Alright, you two, as a special jounin of Konoha and your superior, I order you to tell me what the hell you were thinking following me, and if I don't like your answer, I'll have you two dropped from the ninja program. This seemed to do the trick as the two genin snapped out of their stupor with looks of horror on their faces. What? You can't do that. They screamed at the same time. Anko just gave them a look that clearly said you want to bet. The two kunoichi recoiled slightly, before Sakura decided to speak up. We were watching the finals when the invasion began. We saw Sasuke-kun get taken away by those two masked ninja, and you go after them. We decided to follow you so we could help bring Sasuke-kun back to the village where he belongs. Where is Sasuke-kun anyway? I thought you went to bring him back. She said the last part with a glare at Anko with Ino glaring at her as well. Anko gladly returned their pathetic glares, while inwardly wondering how they would take the news of their precious Uchiha. Sasuke Uchiha is a traitor to Konoha. He willingly crossed into Rice Country and has willingly joined Otagakure and Orochimaru, said Anko, causing the two genins' eyes to widen in shock, before they narrowed in suspicion. You're lying. Sasuke-kun would never betray the village. He cares too much for us to ever do such a thing, said Ino back in full fangirl mode. Sakura followed her example, and started to defend the Uchiha as well. Yeah, Sasuke-kun would never betray Konoha. Why would he betray the people who love him? She said with her glare intensifying. Anko just stared at the two genin in shock for a few seconds, one thought repeating itself over and over in her mind. How the hell can anyone be that thick and oblivious to the truth? Shaking off her shock, the former Konoha jounin reached into her jacket and pulled out Sasuke's slashed headband. The two fangirls stared at the slashed headband in shock, before their eyes filled with tears and they began to sob. It can't be. Why would Sasuke-kun betray us like this? I don't know why, but we're returning to the village now. We need everyone helping to fight off the invasion, said Anko before she took off in the direction of Konoha, with the two wannabe kunoichi following, their tears still falling. With Naruto and Yugito. Forgive us young ones, we cannot control our movements, said Tobirama as he and his brother stood across from the two blonde Jinchuriki. Naruto and Yugito stood at the ready, each mentally preparing themselves for the fight that was about to begin. Although, I sense that you two are not normal genin, are you? Naruto smirked slightly at that. Kurama and Matatabi were their aces in the hole for this fight. You are correct, Tobirama-sama, we aren't normal, said Naruto, before he threw a kunai at the two cages. Neither Senju brother moved to avoid the kunai, since it wouldn't hit either of them on its current path. I guess Tobirama was right. They aren't average genin, they're below average, thought Hashirama as he watched the kunai as it passed harmlessly in between him and his brother. What he failed to notice though, was Naruto making a half-rem sign just before the kunai exploded a little ways behind the two brothers. Completely caught off guard by the explosion, the brothers were launched forward towards their blonde opponents, who were currently going through hand signs. Fire style. Fireball jutsu, said the two Jinchurikis before they both unleashed a fireball the size of a horse at the prone cages. Clearing his head from the explosion, Tobirama managed to form hand signs as he and his brother continued on their collision course with the fireballs. Finishing in the bird sign, Tobirama brought his right hand to his lips before expelling a large amount of water from his mouth. Water style, tearing torrent jutsu, the water impacted the flames, creating a thick steam layer that blanketed the area of route they were on. Taking advantage of the steam cover, Hashirama jumped towards the two Jinchuriki after his brother used his sensor abilities to locate them. Two silhouettes appeared in the steam as Hashirama sped through hand signs, before ending in the snake sign. Wood style wood spike jutsu, he whispered. Instantly two wooden spikes shot out of the roof and impaled the two dark figures in the chest. Expelling chakra from his body to clear the steam, the first Hokage was met with the sight of two blonde ninja impaled by his jutsu. Frowning at the sight of two young ninja dying by his hand, Hashirama retracted the spikes and moved towards the bodies, only for them to disappear in a shower in sparks. Surprised at being tricked, Hashirama wasn't prepared for the two roundhouse kicks that hit him in the chest and face, sending him skidding back towards his brother. Tobirama watched as his brother was sent skidding in his direction by the two blondes, and he had to admit, he was impressed. No one other than himself and two others had ever managed to catch Hashirama by surprise, and these two genin had just done it twice in the same fight. These two are far from ordinary genin, I can't tell for sure, but there's something about their chakra that's different from normal chakra, thought Tobirama as his brother got back to his feet, like the last attack never happened. It seems the stories of your strength and power weren't as exaggerated as some people believe. You truly live up to your reputation, Hashirama-sama. Tobirama-sama, said Naruto as he faced two of the most powerful shinobi in history. We have to be careful, if these two decide to actually fight us seriously we'd be dead in under a minute, thought Naruto as he and Yugito continued to stare down the two revived cages. No kidding, Kit. I may be prideful, but even I have to admit that these two not to trifled with. If you and your mate plan on surviving this, then your only bet is for Yugito to use Matatabe's techniques to defeat them, said the voice of Kurama from inside Naruto's head. You're right, Kurama, I guess I'll just have to buy her some time to get ready, thought Naruto before he turned his head slightly so he could see his girlfriend from the corner of his eye. Yugito-chan, the only chance we have of defeating these two is if you use the jutsu Matatabe taught you, whispered Naruto as Yugito nodded in agreement slightly. You're right, but it will take time to prepare the chakra necessary, and if the first figures out what we are before I can then he'll just his wood style to seal off our demonic chakra from us, whispered Yugito as tried to think of a way to prepare her jutsu without the first figuring out that they were Jinchuriki. Turning so she could see her boyfriend from the corner of her eye, Yugito noticed his infamous fox smirk on his lips. Don't worry, Yugito-chan, leave that to me, said Naruto before he turned his full attention back to their opponents, who watched them with impassive eyes. Pulling two shuriken from his holster, Naruto threw them at the two cages before going through a few hand signs, shuriken shadow clone jutsu. The two shuriken became 200 once again, surprising the two Hokages. Speeding through hand signs, Hashirama ended in the snake sign once again, before slamming his hands on the ground. Wood style dense forest creation, said the revived Hokage as roots and trees began to grow out of the roof they were standing on and filling the entire ceiling barrier with a forest. One root in particular rose up in front of the two brothers, blocking the hail shuriken before it reached them. Naruto frowned as he looked around the forest that now surrounded him and Yugito. Well damn, this complicates things a little bit, thought Naruto as she continued searching for their opponents. Naruto-kun, they're directly in front of us, they're using the trees as cover so they can attack from the shadows, said Yugito as pointed in the direction they had last seen the two cages. Nodding in understanding, Naruto formed a few shadow clones, before he turned to Yugito. Hide yourself while you prepare the jutsu, my clones will protect you while I hold off those two, said Naruto before jumping off in the direction of the two cages. Yugito sighed slightly before she too jumped from her spot in search of a place to conceal herself until she was ready, the clones following at her heels. Naruto landed on a branch across from the two cages with a frown on his face as he contemplated how he should go about this. He was brought out of his thoughts by the sound of Tobirama's usual monotone voice. How is it that you know the Shuriken Shadow Clone Jutsu? That is a kinjutsu that is only found in Konoha, not in Kumo, asked the second Hokage, his eyebrow raised in mild curiosity. Naruto had to fight hard to keep the satisfied smirk off of his face. It wasn't every day that you piqued the curiosity of a person like Tobirama Senju. You are correct, the Shuriken Shadow Clone Jutsu is a konoha kenjutsu, but your student Sarutobi gave me access to the Hokage's personal library. I must admit, I was very impressed with everything that I found in there. Hashirama and Tobirama narrowed their eyes when he mentioned Sarutobi giving him access to the Hokage's library, before returning to the impassive nature. I see was the only thing Tobirama said before started going through hand signs. Once again finishing in the bird sign, Tobirama kept his impassive face even as his jutsu formed water-style, water dragon jutsu. From out of nowhere, a large serpentine dragon made of water charged at Naruto as he sped through hand signs of his own. Earth-style, earth spike jutsu, he said as he jumped from the branch he was standing on, the water dragon continuing its pursuit. Landing on an open patch of roof, Naruto slammed his hands on the ground, causing a large earth spike to rise up and impale the water dragon just before it hit him. Hurry Yugito-chan, I can't keep this up for long, thought Naruto as he went through more hand signs as he charged the first and second Hokages. With the Reikage same time. Damn it, I need to hurry up and beat this guy. Naruto and Yugito will need everyone they can get to defeat those two, thought it as he dodged another punch to the face from Dejima. Countering with one of his own to Dejima's stomach, smirked as he made contact and knocked his opponent back a few feet. His smirk vanished however, when Dejima simply stood up and made no outward indication that the punch affected him. What does it take to get a reaction out of this guy? Thought it as he watched the rogue Akimishi form hand signs. You are unfit to be a Kage or a leader of any kind, said Dejima in the root monotone, expansion jutsu, both arms. Dejima's arms grew to the size of horses before he launched them towards the Reikage. A scowl on the Reikage bobbed and weaved around the massive fists that would surely flatten him if they made contact. How dare he call me an unfit Kage? What does he know about being a leader? Thought it as he jumped over another punch from the root Anbu. Taking advantage of the situation, started running down the Akimishi's enlarged arms and delivered a crushing roundhouse to the man's face. Stumbling back slightly, Dejima easily regained his bearings before shrinking his hands and launching a couple of kunai at the Reikage. Easily dodging the kunai, glanced in the direction the Naruto and Yugito were fighting the first and second Hokages, before he was hit in the face by a flying spin kick. You are a pathetic excuse for a Kage, said Dejima as he slowly stood up from where he had crouched after his attack. A true Kage makes no ties to his ninja, they are merely tools for him to wage war with, tools that are expendable. A shot the root Anbu Aglera, he got to his feet and threw away his Kage robes, his muscle chest clear for all to see. You're wrong, a true Kage would never think of his ninja that way, only a heartless tyrant like that bastard Danzo would, said the Reikage, spitting out Danzo's name like it was venom. This seemed to finally get a reaction out of the root member, as he scowled at the Reikage before he spoke with an actual emotion in his voice, anger. Don't you dare insult Danzo-sama, he was far greater leader than anyone has or ever will be, spat the root Anbu before once again schooling his face into an emotionless mask. Smirking, activated his lightning-style armor and shot at the root Anbu before landing a devastating punch to the man's gut. He was forced to break away from his intended onslaught though, as roots and trees began to sprout from the roof, creating a dense forest inside of the barrier. Damn it, if I don't hurry, Naruto and Yugito will be in serious trouble, thought of before blurring away and appearing in front of Dejima again, and continuing his taijutsu assault. With B same time. You know you root bastards are annoying as all hell, said B as he slashed at Terai with one of his swords. Said root member ducked under the slash and tried to stab B his kunai, only to have B's second sword block the strike. Jumping away from each other, the two shinobi just stared at each other for a few seconds before charging back in. Terai sidestepped a stab to the gut and countered with a swipe of his claws, courtesy of the Inuzuka clan's all-force jutsu. Leaning his head back to avoid the swipe, B used his very unorthodox fighting style, and bit into his wrist, holding him in place. Terai, despite his years of training in root, let out a yelp of pain and surprise as he stared at his now trapped hand. You are without a doubt the most unorthodox shinobi on the planet, said Terai in the typical root monotone, with a little disgust seeping into his voice. Bringing up his kunai, Terai used their position to his advantage and tried for a stab to B's stomach. Surprisingly, B raised his left sword and blocked the stab easily, even though he couldn't have known the stab was coming. Getting irritated at his wrists still being trapped in his opponent's jaws, Terai reared his leg back and kicked B where the sun don't shine. The reaction was instant. B's grip on Terai's wrist slackened, and Terai managed to jump away, a small smirk playing at the corners of his lips. B, on the other hand, was currently bent over holding his family jewels with anime tears rolling down his face. Now that just ain't right. Hitting a man below the belt should be outlawed, thought B as Chimuki winced inside of his host's mind. Not even a true demon can be that cruel, thought Chimuki as he used his chakra to help ease the pain. Shakily standing up, B glared at his opponent with such hatred and anger that even the Shinigami would wince in fear. Alright, you bastard, no more Mr. Nice Guy, I'll make you regret ever meeting me for that cheap shot, said B before he threw his two swords into the air, quickly followed by the 5 on his back. Jumping up after his swords, B caught each of them with a different part of his body, before landing on his left leg. Terai stared on in slight shock and awe. How B was holding his swords. He had one under his left armpit blade facing out, one in each of his elbow joints with his right arm above his head, another was held in behind his right kneecap, and his right leg was raised, holding another in between his leg and stomach, with the final one in his mouth. He didn't miss a beat. The second he landed back on the roof, he jumped towards his opponent before he started spinning at insane speeds. Kumo-style human buzzsaw, said B as his spinning form raced towards Terai, who was still surprised that a human could move like B was. However, Terai was saved from being shredded to pieces by a massive root that sprouted from the roof. B stopped his attack as he watched the terrain around him change from that a tile roof to a dense forest. Damn it, I better hurry, no telling what kind of trouble Naruto and Yugito will get in with those two as their opponents, thought B before jumped over the root, started using his unpredictable Kenjutsu style to keep Terai on the defensive. With Dodai same time. Why don't you do us both a favor and die willingly? It'd be too troublesome to fight you right now, said Tera in the typical root, if somewhat lazy monotone. Dodai just remained in his stance, two kunai at the ready for any kind of attack. Not likely, although, judging by your somewhat lazy aura, I would venture a guess that you are of the Nara clan, right? Asked Dodai as he continued to analyze his opponent. Tera sighed slightly before giving a lazy nod in acknowledgement, bringing a look of understanding to Dodai's face. Well, that explains why you don't want to fight me. Even with the shroud this barrier creates, there are just not enough shadows around for you to manipulate. You're a clever one, I'll give you that, but you're wrong. I just don't to fight you because I have more important things I could be doing right now, like catching a nap, said Tera, his Nara blood showing as he covered up a yawn. Oh well, I guess the sooner I kill you, the sooner I'll be able to sleep. Dodai stiffened, his eyes on Tera's shadow, waiting for an attack. It was only thanks to his instincts that Dodai managed to jump away from his spot on the roof before multiple spears made out of shadows broke through the tiles. You forgot about the shadows underneath the tiles, said Tera before forming the rat hand sign and launching his shadow at Dodai. Jumping to avoid the shadow, Dodai threw his two kunai at Tera, knowing that as long as his shadow was extended, the root member couldn't move. The kunai met their mark as they pierced Tera in the chest, one where his heart was before Tera turned into shadows and sank into the ground. What kind of clone was that? Thought Dodai, as he kept his guard up for any kind of counter. As if hearing his thoughts, Tera's voice sounded from seemingly everywhere. That was the Nara clan's shadow split technique. It allows us to disconnect our shadow from our bodies, while at the same time forming a clone that is fully capable of using any of our shadow-based jutsu. Dodai tensed at hearing this. That kind of clone could be very dangerous in the right type of environment. From the corner of his eye, Dodai noticed a shadow moving towards him from underneath the tiles of the roof. Tired of playing hide and seek with his opponent, Dodai jumped away from the shadow while forming hand signs. Lava style, rubber rope jutsu, whispered Dodai before he spit out a long piece of rubber from his mouth and held it in his hands. Whipping the rubber rope towards the tiles where the shadow was protruding, Dodai cracked it like a whip, knocking away multiple tiles. Out of a secret hole under the tiles came Terra, who had an eyebrow raised as he examined his opponent's new weapon. So a lava-style user that uses rubber-based techniques? This makes things a little more interesting, said Terra before he was forced to jump away his spot on the roof as roots and trees began to grow out of the roof. Dodai looked around the new battlefield while mentally cursing to himself, damn, with this forest the Nara has more than enough shadows to manipulate. I better be careful. Things just got a whole lot more serious. With Sarutobi and Orochimaru same time. Kukuku, now doesn't this seem familiar, sensei, said Orochimaru with a twisted smirk on his face as he watched his former sensei's face contort in anger. I always did enjoy a trip down memory lane, don't you agree, sensei? The only memory that concerns me is wiping yours from the face of this earth, said Sarutobi as he charged his former student, his adamantine staff, at the ready. Seeing that his taunting wasn't going to work as well as he hoped it would, Orochimaru spat up a snake, before the snake opened its mouth and regurgitated a sword handle. Grabbing onto the handle, Orochimaru pulled out the legendary grass-long sword, Kusanagi. Swinging his legendary blade to meet his sensei's own legendary weapon, the two clashed with the ringing of steel. The two cage-level shinobi struggled against each other for a few seconds before jumping away from one another and preparing to strike again. It was at that moment that an eye appeared on Sarutobi's staff, and Enma's voice sounded from the staff in his hands. Be careful, Sarutobi, even in this form, the Kusanagi will still be able to harm me. Sarutobi nodded in understanding before swinging Enma over his back and keeping him in place with chakra. Flipping through hand signs, Sarutobi brought his hand to his mouth after he finished in the tiger sign. Fire style, Fire Dragon Jutsu, a serpentine dragon made of red-hot flames shot from Sarutobi's mouth and charged for the rogue Sannin. Orochimaru stabbed his Kusanagi into the ground beside him and sped through hand signs before ending in the snake sign. Wind-style Vacuum Bullet Jutsu, bringing his hand to his lips like Sarutobi, Orochimaru launched a bullet of compressed air the size of a horse at the charging fire dragon. When the bullet collided with the dragon, it punched easily through the flames before an explosion rocked through their area of the roof. Taking advantage of the smoke screen created by the explosion, Orochimaru grabbed his Kusanagi and charged towards his former sensei. Sarutobi seemed to have similar thoughts, as the two cage-level shinobi clashed in the middle of the smoke. They were forced to jump away from each other, however, as roots and trees began to grow all over the roof. Orochimaru smirked as he watched the forest grow around them. Well, sensei, it looks like that blonde brat you care so much for is as good as dead. You more than anybody should know that whenever the first Hokage uses this particular jutsu, his opponents never live to tell the tale. Curse you, Orochimaru, I swear it's the last thing I do, I will kill you, thought Sarutobi before he charged at his former student with murder in his eyes. With Naruto's clone. Naruto's clone continued to jump through the trees surrounding Konoha as he searched for his next target. Found you, thought the clone before he jumped into a clearing and landed in front of his startled targets. Gaara, said the clone as he watched the surprised Shukaku Jinchuriki with a critical eye, we need to talk. That's it for this part. If you enjoyed it, then like, share and subscribe for the next video as it's going to be more interesting, and also check out my other playlists, hope you would like them too.